worried that if DarkZero spent too long prepping against their opponents, they haven't spent enough time working on themselves and getting back into it. That said, they got a great support staff, and I'm sure they're going to jump in and be focusing on both sides at once. But we've got the map ban phase.
Yes, let's go, gentlemen. We are moving into the map ban phase. Initial thoughts? Jesse, you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. Both of those bans are the ones I predicted. Kafe has to go out for FURIA. They're terrible. Or sorry, Villa has to go out for them. They're terrible at that map.
I see small flex there, by the way. That's what I predicted.
But my predictions kind of stop there. The map pool is pretty open. Kafe, the first pick coming out for FURIA. I don't hate it. There were maybe stronger options. I'm surprised they didn't go to Bank. That is one that they... we saw DarkZero win it recently, I guess, against TSM. Maybe that turned them off a little bit, but I do think it's a strong map. And then number 2 coming out, Clubhouse for DarkZero. It's been one that they've been all right at so far. Clubhouse, they played it twice at the NA Finals, beat SSG to advance their match against the Sonics, where they lost it, but that was a 7-8 scoreline. So, strong map overall.
It's one of those maps for DZ that doesn't really get played very often, but when it does, they have a tendency to win it. It's just not something that comes up very often in their rotation. We had to Oregon as decider, which I do think is still rather 50-50, so this is one where I don't really know if either team has a specific advantage other than the map in which they play, being particularly skewed towards them and not towards their opponents. So if we're stuck in a situation where in this group we've seen teams win their opponents' map picks pretty frequently, honestly, this one looks pretty darn straightforward then when we end up getting to Oregon, which I do think this series will require. It's kind of a 50-50 toss-up.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't know who y'all are rooting for, so I got to ask Jesse who's winning.
I mean, bias aside, like...
No, bias full in, because DarkZero just slammed me on Twitter a couple moments ago.
Oh no, he didn't.
Screenshotting my tweets. I see that, DarkZero. I'm going...
tweet when your eyes are bloodshot at 2 a.m., bro.
It was like 10 p.m., okay? I'm going FURIA, even without bias.
Okay.
Because I think FURIA is really, really nuts. DarkZero, although they got their win last night, I'm not convinced that they're over their slump. I still feel like this is a team that's been very shaky over the last couple of months, and FURIA are slept on. I mean, they are maybe a little bit lower in the tier for Latin America, but it's still a Brazilian team, and you can never sleep on those guys.
I'm going to swing the other way. I think even though it's nice that we've seen FURIA kind of have this uptick, look at DZ. From where they were at the beginning of the group stage until now, they were in completely deep water. Even though it still took a 2-1 victory over a weakened, handicapped BDS to get over the hump, they still managed to defeat TSM in what was a slumber knocker of a game from last night. And when you see a guy like Troy have the energy that he did in that one specific clip that circulated Twitter last night, where he said even Bolo with all of his subscribers couldn't buy a round. The guy's a millionaire and they can't buy a round. You're looking at Troy getting that energy hyped up, getting to a point where he can come up with those one-liners. DarkZero is not a very energy-dependent team. These guys are stoic. They'll figure themselves out without the need to get the energy involved, but they've had a progressive path upward. It's an incline. It's only good things for DZ, and at this point, I don't really have a reason to think the train is going to stop here. Maybe it doesn't mean it's a 2-0 victory, but I think after today, they should have a really nice placement in this group.
Oh man, I'm getting excited. By the way, we were talking earlier. We're like, does Canadian think of those ahead of time? And then it was like, no idea. Man, those just come out of his mouth.
It's almost like we sometimes write some things out beforehand, but then it's just like, we might never have a chance to use a one-liner. I think he might.
Yeah, and I think that mental is going to be so important, because when we last had this match with the Six Invitational, things got a little spicy afterwards. With FURIA, you know, they kind of flexed like, oh snap, we just beat DarkZero. That was back when they were really an underdog team. So, I mean, for them, that's a huge deal.
All right, well, it looks like our teams are ready to go. So what rant will come out of Canadian's mouth? Who will win this SI rematch? Can FURIA defeat DZ? Is it a fantasy? Will it take a miracle? Blue and Stokes, take it away. My puns were great.
All right, thank you very much, Jackie. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to us. It is the final match of the day. A very good morning to our friends watching from North America, and a good evening to pretty much the rest of you. Welcome back once again as we get ready to dive deep into this matchup now between DarkZero and FURIA. Both teams are locked into the playoffs, but they are not locked into which side of the bracket as of yet here, and that's what they're going to be fighting for over the course of this series. Bound to be a good one as we get ready to jump jump into our first map here on Kafe. Stokes, what do you make of this?
Well, everybody wants to be in the winner's bracket, John. I mean, come on. We are about to have a series here, folks. And I think that this is the true litmus test as to what DarkZero can produce here, because the first day, as well as a little bit of the BDS game, looked kind of scary. DarkZero almost lost to BDS without their actual player in. They ended up having BIOS in, and BIOS played a heck of a series, but still, you don't want to be losing to a team that has their coach playing for them. Canadian would know a little bit about that, but they were able to pull that off and able to get the 2-1 victory, and they're looking here to do yet again today.
Certainly going to be the case here. And to look back at some of the big players, you can see once again one of them right there that we're going to be focusing on. NJR having himself a fairly good matchup in the previous day here against TSM, a big proponent to allowing DarkZero to try and excel in that matchup. And for FURIA, once again, it's been primarily Miracle here at this tournament that's been the one to watch, at least in terms of just general fragging consistency. A few other categories, though, where we can see these teams looking to shine out, and that's going to be highs in the entry department there at a +2. Certainly keep an eye on that as we get ourselves into this map, as Cafe's been a bit of a tough matchup here for our attacking squads here, oftentimes needing that early advantage to really get yourself onto the map, onto the board, and able to leverage some of those trickier dissensions, such as the second floor holds that have been becoming very, very popular here as we see other regions bringing their strategies into the fold. Either way, it looks like we are about to go live, ladies and gentlemen, with our first map of the series. Let's get into it. Let's find out who tops out the group and who can find a top position inside of our bracket as well, giving them a second chance with a possible loss to be taken to keep their tournament lives rolling. Let's head into it. Let's find out who's going to be our winner here between DarkZero and FURIA.
Well, apparently social media is thinking that it's going to be DarkZero. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but we're going to find out. FURIA has been looking pretty dastardly at certain moments, but you could say the same for DarkZero, especially in their series yesterday up against TSM. Most importantly, Canadian popping off in a lot of different manners, not only in the game, but also out, as I'm sure everybody saw those clips on Twitter. And if you didn't, I mean, are you living under a rock? That's the real question. We're going to get into the ban phase now, folks. We're going to have some pretty interesting ones here from DarkZero. They'll remove Wamai on defense. Florals will be removed from FURIA, as they'll be removing the last ban here on the defensive end, and we'll have to see exactly what this is going to be. It's going to be Mira, so we got a little bit of things to talk about. Biggest things is Flores is obviously really, really good against deployable shields and things of that nature, whereas Wamai, he's got a direct counter, and that's actually Capital. So this is going to open up Capital quite a bit for the offensive side, and wouldn't you know it, that's where DarkZero is starting.
All right, so let's see here where exactly is FURIA going to start their defense. So that's the next big question. It's going to be downstairs here inside of a kitchen hold. Lots of utility mitigation coming in for their lineup, in addition to the Thunderbird pick there to reinvigorate some of these more aggressive swings, as oftentimes we see those extended positions coming into play here. Those players losing damage in the early round will have to fall back to the site eventually, and if they've lost about half or so of their HP from an earlier fight they've taken, well, the Kona stations can help out quite nicely in that, getting those players back up to full strength to fend off the eventual attack that will fully come into the site from DarkZero. Let's get into the round here and take a look at the strategy now as our teams will be setting up.
Linda's going to 6-pick off of Valkyrie and bring in Mute instead. Makes a lot of sense for this site. Obviously, Valkyrie has a lot of applications overall for anything. If you want some extra information, then you're more than likely going to bring her, but they're going to use Mute to be able to hold on to a lot of these walls, make it a little bit more difficult for DarkZero to actually move their way in. Obviously, this is going to get in the way of Canadian as well, which has been on the rotation when it comes to operators played inside of this lineup here for DZ, so expect him to be on a myriad of different things.
Away from that, of course, you're going to see a little bit of extension upstairs here too, looking like the Mute playing into that one. Might just be setting up some utility as well to mitigate some of the intel coming out from DarkZero, but time will decipher that mystery for us relatively quickly. As we've got DarkZero on the board now, a nice drone sneaking its way in the kitchen here is actually going to provide some good intel to this team when they get to their actual execute inside of the last minute or so. So remember that if DarkZero are going to suddenly start popping off on kills, you guys at home should know why, because that drone will be providing the intel necessary to allow that to happen. See some members of the team here start to put initial pressure in towards areas like the whiskey bar and whatnot, with a bit of a focus on entering through the front door, but a few more also going to work on getting that third floor control going, so they won't have to worry about a vertical retake from FURIA when they're ready to move into the site.
DarkZero has a lot to worry about and a lot to do when it comes to this map overall. This top floor is actually being held on to FURIA in the moment. Rare going to pop off immediately and take down Pam Bazoo. Now DZ, glaringly aware of the issue around the map. Still have quite a few FURIA bodies up on that second floor that they're going to have to worry about. DarkZero really want to gain access to the train space so they can begin breaking up the flooring, making life a little bit difficult for these anchor players. But you can already see that FURIA are going to be holding on to this for some time.
A bit of a quiet time here now as Eyes, well, yeah, that drone rolling past here. Won't necessarily be able to take care of it though, but still in a pretty hard lock position here over towards VIP. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say, hopefully having some utility mitigation and ADS maybe there to save the day, but apparently not. Eyes just getting a Kobe landing right on top of it there. It'll take him out nice and easily to even us out down to a 4v4.
Always have to respect the frag grenades, as apparently some ADS is not properly positioned in the moment. Also able to clear out, well, yes indeed. Also able to clear out that laser gate, and that's going to open things up here for NJR to land that second frag grenade onto yet another unsuspecting FURIA member. X-Kairos down now to be able to clear out the prep kitchen, as Fantasy will be holding on to Bakery here for the moment. Miracle now taking some heat from the back end as well, but it's a full wrap here from DZ. The other two FURIA members, well, one upstairs at the top of red, the other one inside of Small Bakery. Fantasy will be able to land his shots here as he transitions back in, and so will Lenda, as he'll take the man advantage here in round one.
Fantasy continuing to sit behind the bakery walls here and wanting to try and waste as much time as possible, but very quickly not going to be able to do that anymore as Hyper's torn through the entire front hallway setup as he takes out two players back to back here. Miracle now left alone, but thankfully so is the last player for DarkZero as he takes down Eclipse. One left, but no, okay, it's a trade, and it's looking like FURIA is going to end up taking that round as a result of it, as we did not have a plant.
Super unfortunate there for FURIA, or rather DarkZero, as FURIA will gain that round. Just had to make sure there for just a split second.
Everyone's celebrating, so I kind of made a safe assumption there.
Yeah, just had to wait for it to come up on our end. And yeah, beautiful shots there as Hyper actually with a triple kill inside of that round as well. And that's honestly fantastic to see. Hyper has not been having the greatest of lands, and honestly, that's a little strange when it comes to him overall. We do expect quite a bit from Hyper, especially with his overall play across the last 2 years inside of NA and in international competition as well. And, well, I told you about it last round. It's going to come to fruition in the second. Canadian already switching gears, and this time it's for Akali.
And just to once again really quickly explain how those final seconds broke down, I know I said it really quickly, guys, but in the event that the final two players are on the opposite team from each other and they trade, because it is possible to do that in Siege, the defenders will win in all circumstances unless the diffuser has been planted. In that circumstance, then the attackers will win in that trade.
Correctamundo, my friend, and that's simply because the objective dictates whether or not you win via the bomb. That's why there's no one there to plant the diffuser via the defense win, because they successfully defended the bomb.
Yep, so while both players technically got the kill at the same time, bomb was still eventually going to blow up. So
hey, exactly. It is what it is. It was going to reach that zero timer and go off, and that's exactly why that ended up going through. So great explanation there, my friend. That one's always a little complicated when it happens, so hopefully you guys at home are not too confused. Especially in round one of the game. I was not really suspecting to see that go down.
To be fair, that happens like super rarely. That's only like the second or third time I've seen that happen.
I was going to say, I honestly think that might be the first time that you and I have actually had that happen whilst casting together, which we've been casting together a long time at this point, my friend. So pretty interesting stuff to start us off here between DZ and FURIA.
All right, well, we've got the members of DarkZero quickly up on top of the building here, looking to put the vertical pressure back into this map relatively quickly here after an unfortunate turn of events. So close, but yet so far from claiming that first round here as they're able to bring it down to a 1v1. That's after having the advantage as well. Big clutch as Panba is going to be able to catch the run out here from Fantasy. He's trying to get aggro over by Piano Window and pays the price for it. Is on the cap can, so while the rifle loss is going to be certainly missed, as will the player, those cap can traps will certainly stay alive here and could do some serious damage, especially with the recent changes to them. If you haven't played Siege in a while, you might be thinking like, oh, they're only going to do like 50 damage at most. Well, you can stack them now, meaning that you have the capability to outright kill a player if you commit 2 to a single doorway, and of course the attacker ends up walking through both of them.
It can really, really hurt. Also, they do a very good job of soaking up time, because once one goes off, you have to check every single door frame and window, like Heiz is checking in the moments, but it's NJR instead to take him down. You expect FURIA to extend themselves, but that can also lead lead you into some pretty damning moments, and that's exactly what's going to happen. 2 quick bodies here from DZ. They'll take some serious damage in the process, but nothing they can't deal with in the moment, as it is a 5 versus 3.
Relatively quiet opening to this round, aside from those 2 opening kills there. In terms of map control, DarkZero's really only just gotten into the building here, but they've already started out with a bang with frags against both Highs and punishing the aggression from Fantasy as well there. Highs was trying to dodge the fight, but couldn't do so. No, another player gonna get caught. This is despite counter pressure coming in from pillars across the hallway through soft walls as well. Rare will get down, but nobody wants to try and test their luck on swinging the corner to confirm him here. So there is actually a slight chance for Miracle or possibly the other member of FURIA, Lenda, to sneak over and revive Rare here as DarkZero's taken a step back to confirm there's no additional shenanigans going on the inside there. Rare quickly running out of time to be revived though, so Lenda might want to speed it up a bit, but the cross has been established. I think Lenda's just said, man, I think I gotta leave you here as much as I want to save you. It's not looking like it can happen. And about 3, 2, 1, there he goes. Rare finished off on his downtimer.
And Hyper quickly doubling down on these kills. Yet another one for him as Lenda will fall. We'll have Miracle be the last one alive as he'll be able to catch Canadian hopping over the balcony. Another stun in Dwight, and Miracle blinded as he tries to dip down. Good game sense, but he's going to run immediately into Canadian with a secondary pistol out as he'll be able to run down Brown over to White and find the Echo.
Canadians saying, are you going to stun me if I don't kill you? As that futile yokai charge came out there in the final seconds of the round. Just not much playmaking capabilities left for that final member on FURIA, so DarkZero quickly rebound.
You're talking an awful lot for someone within striking distance. That's probably what Canadian was thinking right there. So, first round there for DZ after the initial trade goes down from FURIA, and I just got to stick to this Hyper subject here for a second, John. Mostly because of what we've seen from him this LAN. A .88 at the moment and negative 13. Yeah, something serious going on over on the A stream right now. You guys should probably check that out because Fluke is going off, and that definitely signifies something. But either way, back to the subject that we're talking about over here on Bravo. Yeah, Hyper negative 13 at the moment for his KD spread. That's something that we literally never see when it comes to this man. So nice to see him popping off and finding his stride here on Kafe.
Not only that, but there's been other members of DarkZero that have stepped up here. Keep in mind, DarkZero did a slight rebuild to their roster earlier on and rather throughout the course of this year, bringing in some new blood instead of relying on kind of the old Titans that had been their trademark, as had been the case for a lot of teams inside of North American Rainbow Six Siege for some time as well there. They brought NJR into the fold, who had a good run in 2020 as a rookie, I believe, under Disrupt, correct?
I'll say the name again. I'm sorry, I was trying to make sure
NJR.
wasn't thinking. NJR. I want to say it was that. I'll double check for you
I think it was Disrupt, if I remember correctly, but you can confirm for me. And then obviously in the middle of this year, bringing Panbazoo directly up from the CL as well here. Ended up being a very prominent pickup for this team, and we've already seen NJR be worth his weight in gold so far this tournament, just in the matchup.
Fantastic job, my friend. Your Liquipedia brain is on point.
Nice.
Indeed, 2020. You went from 92 Redeem Team to Disrupt Gaming, and then finally up to DarkZero. Disrupt, especially back in the day, having so much talent run through that team. Gotcha actually playing for that team, I believe, at one point as well. So, I mean, there's just so many different names that we've seen ended up going through that. So, either way, about 40 seconds here on to round 3. FURIA going to be holding on to the top floor here. Obviously worried about that cocktail space and what could go on down low, so they'll have some bodies around the area to make sure that DarkZero can't get a hold of that. But fortunately enough for them, it doesn't seemingly look as though DZ really want that in the first place. Obviously because of the lack of utility in order to actually do anything with that area, as they won't have a Buck or Zofia, or really anything to affect Verticality, minus frag grenades, but we know how often those have been used at this LAN. And speak of the devil, he will show his face. A frag grenade out to destroy the Goyo shield here, and impact out to get rid of the air jab as well.
Flash of panic there for Fantasy. You guys probably saw it on your screen too. The red nade getting a little close to it. Thankfully it was an uncooked nade. That one going to be chucked in and nearly grabs Lenda as well here, but going to be running low on supply here now for DarkZero after those had been thrown. Should be about halfway through their overall usage of nades here. As we can see, actually, never mind, 3/4, I'm pretty sure if I'm tracking it properly. NJR might still have one in his pocket, but Hyper is fresh out of nades, and there you go. Yeah, NJR's got one left. So let's see if DarkZero are going to be able to properly utilize that as we are coming down to the last third of this round here, approaching the 1-minute mark. But at the same time, DarkZero starting to make their forward momentum to try and get deeper into this third floor hold here. Finally taking some control of top red, and Hyper striking true yet again here as he's able to get the first kill of the round against Lenda.
6-1-1 at the current moment. Hyper seeming inevitable on this map, at least as of right now. 48 seconds remaining here in round 3 as Fantasy finally lands some shots. It's on the Canadian on the skylight who was face checking that. And he'll move forward inside of the bar. Pambazoo will find him through the cross on the trash wall though, as they've given up Christmas early on here, especially with the wall going down. Pambazoo just simply going to crawl in as he'll be able to hold on to this for a time. Some more Selma charges going down as well, and Pambazoo landing some serious shots. He'll take down Rare. It's a triple kill for him on the round. It's all left up to Highs, as he will have to try and play prevent for this plant.
Highs, the nearly futile task put in front of him again for safety. He goes back downstairs just to establish safer angles in case he's going to get swung from white side. Doesn't even happen though. He's got to fully go back into the site here. Will get vision onto Hyper and return some damage too, so a good start to this one. But now the clock is ticking, and it's going to stop ticking pretty quickly as Panda secures a 4th overall kill on the round. Beautifully played from him. We were just talking about him as well, as he shuts it down for DZ here and puts another one on the board for them, allowing them to take the lead at 2-1.
The ARXs are coming alive right now for DarkZero as they continue to put FURIA bodies in bags. We'll see if they can continue to do so on this offensive side. As you all know, Kafe usually tends to be a defender-sided map, so this is quickly starting to run away from FURIA, and that's exactly why we're going to have this tack pause.
A very quick one coming in as well here. It's very early days for FURIA, but they're feeling that they have something to immediately throw in, some input to be made by their coach. They're sitting in the back, so considering that, we'll see what type of changes are going to come into the fold. Here's FURIA now finally go towards a 2nd floor hold for themselves over in Fireplace and mining this time to see if that will finally yield results after only being able to control the 1st floor hold, and even then just barely doing it with a trade confirming the round.
All smiles on the DZ bench, and I mean, why wouldn't they? Especially after the start that they had to this LAN, they've got to be very, very happy with the results that they've been able to come up with, especially as of right now. They're looking like they can seriously do some damage to some teams. I'm hoping this isn't just a fluke in the current moment and that this continues on for DarkZero into our main stage. But just as a reminder for you folks, the reason that FURIA is being so serious about this matchup is because this is for whoever goes to the winner's side of the bracket. That means a whole heck of a lot at the end of the day. It also gives you an extra life as you can get knocked down to the lower bracket and still play through to the finals.
So if you're looking to play in for that, we'll be following their results very closely in this round and talking very seriously about it too. DarkZero, like we were talking about before, locked in, but not a whole lot in terms of their capability to climb the ranks and have in a better position, such as that upper bracket play. So we will have to see what type of performance they're going to continue to give us. Things are looking quite promising for them with the pressure lifted, it seems. Hyper specifically having himself quite the ball game as of these past few rounds. And as you just saw there, Panda as well, finding some great contributions with a quad, I believe, coming out from him on the previous round. New setup coming in once again here for FURIA, though, as they're going to be holding into the 2nd floor. So let's take a look and see how this is going to go. Lots of roaming potential once again alive. You got a Valkyrie, a Mute. On top of that, we've got the Malusi, and we have a Thunderbird too to make the site a bit more palatable. And this is on top of the intel as well as the firepower coming in there on Highs' choice.
We've been seeing Thunderbird quite a lot in comparison to what we saw initially when she came out. A lot of people finding some very good mileage when it comes to these Kona stations and their ability to heal up your teammates, especially when it comes to some of those dire moments. We see them used in a couple of different patterns. The most interesting one, I would say, happened to us yesterday where we saw them triple stacked inside bunker as well as reading. So we'll see if FURIA want to try and go for something similar, but as of right now, it's looking like the standard setup. Just spread them out, put them in some hard-to-reach places for the offenders, make it easy for your on-site players to try and get to them. Maybe slap one upstairs if you really need it, if you are going to have an extended hold here. But as of right now for FURIA, this is looking like a lot of horizontal play, all except for Cocktail, which is of the utmost importance to this side overall.
JR will begin the process of ascension up towards the roof here. The team does need to go for the top-down clear now. They've analyzed their options for the assault from the side in areas like Helm, whatnot. Not going to be favoring it this time around here. And JR now gets in position. We'll see the normal assault made by the rest of DZ, as they'll be trying to gain access to these areas as quickly as possible to get themselves in and started taking that third floor control. It'll be very much needed before they can even think about getting closer towards this site play here. In terms of FURIA's play, once again, we were talking about this before, they have got a lot of very mobile operators in the lineup right now, and that means that we are going to have a very mobile setup for them too. We can see some deployments over towards Cocktail, allowing them to hold their third floor positioning, and that of course will now be confirmed by NJR. They're spotting it out on the drone. So let's see how quickly DZ can clear this out, because realistically they need to try and accomplish this inside the next minute or so here if they want to be on good pace to still take control of the second floor site.
Hatches opened up, and DarkZero also working on the ticket wall as well. Just remember, guys, that they do indeed have to attack the second floor, and they need to try and pressure off most of FURIA. That's why Cocktail ends up being so very important here, because it looks over long bar, as well as has a hatch to be able to escape, just in case White Stairs ends up being a hot spot for DZ's damage. Hyper begins clearing out the space. He'll get rid of some mute jammers. Also notices the nitro hole in the floor that is pretty routine when it comes down to it. Usually end up chucking a nitro or just working that angle there. That way these Cocktail players, or rather cigar shop players, are at least in some hot water from a different space. Hyper going to be holding on to this area for a time, seemingly clearing this out with NJR and these drones. Is, well, FURIA just going to fall off instead. They'll drop down that hatch, and now DZ have top control.
Hyper still hunting for his first initial target here, as there's going to be a yellow ping on at least one of the second floor holds, and now it's going to, all they focus on is, man, there was no time being wasted with that sledge opening. Beautifully done. Great teamwork from DarkZero, as it's Hyper and Panva ripping up that first member of FURIA. As soon as NJR opens up the top-down angle, they're going to look to see if they can do this again, but of course we'll need a bit more intel for that. This is the problem, is stacking up those nitros can come in and respond quite nicely for the defense, as we're going to see one of them strike true to take out Eclipse, and some other good damage going to be done to players like NJR and Hyper also.
Very well done, and now FURIA looking to try and pressure out towards Red Stairs. They found a safe haven, be able to hide from the DZ members, but where is this plant going to go down? A smoke out in the cross-held. Does Miracle find himself a triple? Heis will take down Canadian. It's all left up to the window player in the legs of NJR. That 81 will continue to spit bullets until the end of the round, guaranteeing FURIA just that.
Yeah, the Aldo with no issues holding off the rest of that rappel, and our player from DarkZero not even really wanting to try and contest that. So we are in an even fight once again at 2-2 here. Keep in mind once more, FURIA, the one trying to fight, trying to guarantee themselves the top one in this group. So they cannot falter here, as they're going to want the clean 2-0 to make the best chance of that possible here. We'll go back to the second floor once again here, as they'll go towards the other variation of this site over inside of Reading Room, as FURIA has found a winning formula, and they do not want to deviate from it.
Yes, indeed, this second floor of the utmost importance when it comes to the site rotations here on Kafe, as it has some of the best ones, especially when it comes to the Reading Room Fireplace Hall defense, which is arguably the most defender-sided one out of all of them. A lot of teams really used to clearing out that top floor, so Bar Cocktail tends to be a little risky when it comes down to it. Obviously, still a very good site, just because Kafe is defender-sided, but that second floor, if you can limit people from clearing out that top floor very quickly, it almost guarantees you the round on time. So we'll have to see what FURIA can possibly do with that top space. And ladies and gents, we're a couple of moments away from getting into round 5. Just stick with us as we figure out this technical issue.
Because just guys, we'll get the admins looking into that immediately here and figure out what the slight problem is. Hopefully just a quick fix, and then we will continue our play as DarkZero now looks to rebound themselves and take back the lead on, like we said before, what's going to be that additional second floor hold for the members of FURIA here. Once again, things are also going to look a little bit brighter for themselves, as they can stick with pretty much the same formula here. The operator lineup that we're potentially going to get is going to look a little bit different, as we are going to get a bit more mitigation this time, a bit more focus on the actual site, and a Rooney and a Jaeger currently picked up by the team. And on top of the smoke coming back into the fold as well to the light inside of the actual site that was missing from the last one due to the, I think, larger amount of variance that the attackers have in terms of where they can assault it from. This time, it's not going to be so much the case. You've got the Hell route to work your way in from the outer balcony doorway, or of course a hop down from the third floor against Reading Room, or you can descend from the area, working yourself over by the hatch there. So once you have been able to decipher which path is going to be the best here, the smoke can get in the way. And yeah, it's not very technical. It's more medical pause at this point. It looks like a member of FURIA cut their finger, so that's why we are on break at this point to remedy that.
It just so happens to be Fantasy, so I hope that he's going to be okay. I believe that's on his mouse hand as well. Can we get a camera back over here? Okay, yeah, it is indeed going to be on his mouse hand. Oh man, that really, really sucks. Whenever you end up having like an injury on your hand on that mouse side, it can make things so weird, and having that Band-Aid there can change up the way that you have to hold your mouse. So I know for some of the people that more than likely watch Siege that don't really play on M&K or anything like that, you're probably like, Stokes, what the hell are you talking about? But, you know, it really can play and affect the way that you aim and things like that. So be looking to Fantasy now to see what he can possibly get done. He's 2-4 at the moment, so I really don't, I really hope that this doesn't end up affecting him all that much, because FURIA desperately need him in the moment.
Clearly just let it bleed. It's got to be the better
If he dies, he dies.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you couldn't separate Fantasy.
Listen, if he gets a little lightheaded, just get him a juice box.
I mean, hey, that's true. Dude, I'll take a Juicy Juice any day of the week. Those things are amazing. You're speaking to the kid in me now, John. Come on.
All right, well, let's get back into this round here. It's like we were talking about during the pause there. Looking like FURIA going to give us a lot of the same things, specifically on the third floor. Obviously, the second floor setup's going to vary quite a bit, as we'll be on a different part of the map, but still very much a lot of the things you guys would come to expect here. The usual rotations to lend credence to the defense over here inside of the dining room, where a lot more of it's going to be focused. That applies to areas like J and, of course, the white stairs too, which will be pivotal to FURIA's success on this defense.
Also have Rare holding down the wall here for reading as well with an Electro Claws. DarkZero climb to the roof and begin their clear of this map. Fantasy will be around the red space. He's just going to hightail it out of there, and you can't exactly blame him with the angles already coming in onto him. Have an ADS here to be able to at least assist him in holding on to this deployable shield, but has quite a few other options at his disposal as well. Still 2 reinforcements in their pockets past this reinforcement that he just used, so don't necessarily know where those were exactly supposed to be going, but FURIA apparently not needing them in the moment.
About a minute already off the clock here, very quickly ticking down round despite the relative inaction from both of our teams so far. That's going to start to change, though, over the next few. We can already see DarkZero, specifically Panba, lined up to put pressure on the extended pixel setup here for FURIA, which also applies to the bathroom sitting right next door to that. No success on him holding the rappel, so instead it's over here to start setting up counters for rotates on FURIA's end here by knocking in those air jabs, which will knock an opponent down if they cross them, should they be so bold as to challenge it. Default maybe getting left up there for the benefit of FURIA, so Panba just quickly shooting that out. And now the rest of DZ into the map, into the site, or into the third floor at a minimum. Is also find out that Valkyrie camera real quick and remove that intel from the defense.
DZ starting to set their clear up for this top floor as Hyper clears through. Already have someone working their way in for the Heaven balcony, as well as Canadian will find one on a pretty ratty spot, but Fantasy, he can out-rat the rat as he comes up white stairs. Will take down Canadian and be able to equalize here. So very well done for him, or rather brown stairs. Apologies for that, folks. But either way, Fantasy will be able to get back down low, and apparently the Band-Aid not affecting his grip too much as he'll be able to land those shots.
Slow build up here as they'll throw in the Gemini drone to get rid of the laser gate blocking off their access into Cocktail. Just a matter of convenience more than anything. Here's obviously FURIA is not going to have any capability to reignite that now that DarkZero will have full control of the third floor. I say that, but someone could get a little cheeky if they wanted to here. And not important though, as Hyper has now taken out Fantasy through the hatchwork in Cigar there. As Fantasy tries to challenge it, Highs will respond in kind by taking out Panba. They kill opening things up here, but DarkZero once again need to speed things up, and Hyper's going to help out to do that as he eliminates Highs going into the smoke as they pressure past that and get themselves in. But here comes Lenda on a possible flank. That's left Miracle out on an island here now as Lenda's push will be unsuccessful. He can do nothing to stop the plan. It goes down without a hitch, and now Miracle's left alone, having to fear a top-down angle against himself as well. To swing in, he's got tracers to play with, and he nearly gets a kill to start out this retake, but not enough. And as on top of that, he's already used his Nitro Cell. Not going to have any easy capability to knock out the player, or at least cause some fear from up on top, so this is a tough ask and near impossible play for Miracle to make inside of the 1v3. He's going to try his best, but he might not even get a chance as the nade comes in from NJR. Banks a bit too early here, however, so Miracle will get his chance yet, but he's quickly running out of time. Nice shot against NJR, but it means very little when the trade immediately comes in from Hyper, and the round still goes into the pocket of DarkZero.
Hyper is 9-2 right now, just taking it to FURIA with this Yana in the moment. They have one more round on this offensive side as well. He's already above a 1.0 KPR. That's truly incredible to start off this game, especially up against such a fiery LATAM squad. DarkZero looking to go up 4-2 on this offensive half. And not only that, this is FURIA's map choice.
Absolutely the case here. So we're actually going to see, I think, for the only time since they won it back in round number 1, a return down to the first floor hold there from FURIA. Not a lot of confidence, apparently, inside of that hold, considering the overall results from that round. We're only going to go back to it here on round number 6. But either way, they do finally make the return, as they'll go for the Hail Mary, it seems, here to try and get themselves a third round and equalize the scoreboard yet again. DarkZero will bring the appropriate roster needed to respond to that.
Do have an update from Stream A as to what was going on over there. So if you do not want to know what's going on in the TSM via Elevate game, please mute your
3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1, go. 7-5 Elevate on the first map, my friend. That is actually pretty incredible stuff. So make sure if you guys have dual monitors or just like a phone or a tablet or something, you slap up both of these streams, because I'm going to tell you, they're both going to be pretty damn spicy. So hopefully you guys like some heat. Otherwise, well, you might want to just stick to one stream. Either way, though, DarkZero ahead over here is, well, hopefully you guys have your clients unmuted once again. So hello as we rejoin and round 6 commences.
See here what the opening gambit will be from DarkZero is once more not going to be a whole lot built up inside of this first minute of play, but the operator lineup here coming in from FURIA once again favoring heavy utility mitigation, but also trying to block off access to some of the hard breach from DarkZero also as they bring the Cade into the fold. But Fantasy yet to use either the Electric Claw, so a little bit of an active play here with that utility. More than likely want to wait and see the path from DarkZero. So once again, this is a bit of a dynamic site. They have a few options in terms of where they want to take their attack, so I think they want to see what that looks like before they commit either one of those pieces of utility.
DarkZero for the time, well, looking for some things around the lobby space, at least for Hyper's sake. Could end up using that Gemini to clear out the area as well. Lots of info gained for DarkZero in this lineup, especially with Canadian back onto the Jackal. And as we were talking about, this is going to be 3 separate ops that Canadian has tried out. We've seen him try Jackal a little earlier on. He was also playing Twitch and some Kali all at the same time. A little cheeky way to get inside of doors for you guys at home as well. You don't have to break them fully. If you can make a crouch hold, you can actually slide on through those. And it's a pretty easy way to sneak up on your opponent because everyone is trained to listen for those doors to break. Once they hear 2 busts, they're like, oh, I mean, maybe somebody's not in the building. And then all of a sudden you have a Troy Canadian approaching on you and encroaching for that frag. He's going to be able to secure this mid floor, so DarkZero will begin to rotate in, at least for NJR's sake, as he'll begin breaking up the floor inside of mining.
Nitro primed and ready to go for Fantasy. Not a lot of intel being thrown in. Oh, NJR as well. Sees that player. I think he saw the arm prime, but oh, Fantasy still actually able to make a hit too. Eclipse ends up becoming the target instead of NJR. So that's going to end up being a good opener here for the members of FURIA. Clean kill against Eclipse and no spot against the one down below either. Fantasy with some great utility usage. It's not the only Nitro they have. Lenda could still cause future problems for this team as they still have a lot more openings to clear.
Yes, indeed. And that minute remaining, NJR with a possible frag. And oh, Fantasy, why are you peeking, my friend? Get dusted as NJR takes him down. This is going to prompt Hyper to start moving forward. And he's going to find a freebie as Rare tries to rotate down red. He's got prep all to himself. 10-2 at the moment. An amazing KD as he's at a 5.0 at the time. Jackal also reading out where the other member is. Miracle, don't step up to the plate. Hyper's found his stride, folks. 11-2 now, as it's down to Highs and Lenda.
Lenda with the top down might be able to stop this first planet tap, but no, the angle is not going to be presented here. No way to see where it's going down, and NJR confirms it just as he was getting close to the spot as well. High's now spotted also. Good trade from Lenda, but it's only the beginning of a very long road once again here. You guys have seen this. This is very familiar territory here for FURIA, as once again, it's a nigh impossible 1vx with a very quickly diminishing time bank. Reads the rotate, but again, it's only the Gemini, so no dice in terms of locking in a second kill against this hold from DZ now, as Hyper stays alive and well at 11-2 here. Creeping back in, not looking like a real attempt is going to be made, and even if he does, he's about to walk right into the crosshairs of Hyper. Gives him the warning, but even still wins the fight regardless, as Hyper makes it 12-2 now, 6.0 KD as we work ourselves into the second half.
Truly disgusting stuff coming from Hyper, as that's only on one half of the coin. He still has an entire defensive set to be able to try and push this to new heights here, John. We could see possibly the highest rating that we've had this entire time. We'll just have to see. And for FURIA, I mean, across the board throughout this tournament, they've all actually been doing pretty well. The lowest rating on this team at the moment, at least before this match, was Lenda at a 1.02, whereas for DarkZero, it actually was Hyper at a 0.88. Canadian a little bit ahead of him at a 0.92 as well, but now DZ seemingly firing on all cylinders. This is not like the team that we casted before.
Maybe DZ finally finding their stride here, getting their confidence on international soil. Seem to be missing from the most recent appearance for this team. The first with Canadian in the leadership position back during the Sweden Major. I had a talk with Canadian a few months back, I think even before the Sweden Major as well, and he told me again the focus for this team was to be prepared for SI, was to give the best performance possible there. That's where they were going to show the world what they were made of. Already have been able to confirm their way outside of the groups and into the playoff stage, and now has to show the rest and the other regions here inside of our global division what exactly they are made of.
I mean, you have to ask yourself, is it really an SI without Canadian there? My answer, probably not. And it seems like we're going to get just that. Luckily enough for us, neither of these teams can be knocked out because they're both pretty damn interesting, not only to watch but to commentate as well. Very excited for both of these teams' future, but as of right now, DarkZero are just dicing up FURIA. Very well done so far from them. Now FURIA out and about for the very first time on their offensive side, and let's take a look at this lineup, John. They've got some different ideas here. Biggest one being Miracle on this IQ. Ash will also be along for the ride as well with her breaching rounds.
So that bit of a slow process once again to build up towards that point in the round. We did see the 6th pick from Miracle to bring an IQ into place. They're going to be able to quickly isolate out all this utility. And more importantly, when we get ourselves into the final few seconds of the round here, they'll be able to spot out any potential yokai drone positions if this ends up being a bit of a close contention where they have to get that diffuser down at no time, or they don't want to take the risk of potentially losing it to just a nice little stun that comes out from one of those drones. So that should be a good insurance policy, assuming they're able to keep it alive until we get to that point. 2 minutes left though. FURIA already starting on working for the clear as DarkZero did not take up any presence on the 3rd floor, so it's an easy process there. I think the same applies to our 2nd floor positions as well. DZ focusing entirely on a horizontal hold this time around, so FURIA has all the time in the world to set up for their assault.
And as for DZ's defensive setup, I mean, looking at this lineup, it's quite interesting, especially with Eclipse bringing Tachanka and a lot of teams finding quite a bit of mileage when it comes to this operator, specifically on the kitchen site with the amount of denial that he has with 14 of those frag grenades, or rather fire grenades that he has inside of his launcher. So DZ able to prevent things pretty well. Hyper now standing up inside of lobby with a lot of DZ assistance around the whiskey bar space. FURIA will begin breaking things up on this 2nd floor as they want to try and prioritize clearing the kitchen area. But as of right now, there's no one in the site, folks. DarkZero don't need anybody in the site because they're holding all of the other avenues to actually get there. Currently, everyone is just right on the outskirts of it. They can collapse back in at any moment if they see fit, but that would require FURIA to find some serious intel first.
It's going to be FURIA still just slowly clearing things out, opening up the obvious rotates they need in order to properly leverage around this assault. They are going to be able to find out a player's position too because of their usage of IQ here. As a quick reminder, as we don't see her use that often, if a player is on camera, that will show up on the scanner here. But the first kill of the round, and only 40 seconds, goes to NJR. Second one will be found by DarkZero as well, with only one exchange coming in for FURIA, bringing us in to a 4 versus 3. But it seems as though FURIA has found enough room to bargain for a plant. But look at this now. Hyper on the flank, working himself back in, finds the planter for free. That's going to drop Rare. Highs as well as Miracle, the only ones left. Highs with a good quick exchange to stop the wrath of Hyper as he held that top-down position here. So all the pressure falls back now to the main squad, holding on to the site here as they'll have to work their way back around. Of course, has the laser gate to move in towards, but no, Canadian not ready for the aggressive push from Miracle, but at the same time, Eclipse not ready for the swing from Miracle as he takes him down there. Miracle going down. We still have 2 frags on play for the attackers as well, and they're going to be used now by Highs. Oh no, I think it banked. I don't know if it dropped where they needed to. He can still take him out though, and now there's no time left. We're past the point of no return. Highs has done it. He's clutched it out for FURIA, and they're now going to go up 4-3.
Now that's the biggest issue over there for DZ. When you leave the site like that, you have to have intel. You have to have insight as to what's going on there, and just not seemingly enough in the moment. Unfortunate round for DarkZero as they had it initially, but just not able to get away with it, especially with Hyper upstairs, not really aware of that player there over on white stairs for FURIA that was able to end up picking up that kill. So very well done there from Highs to be able to play out from that position. That frag grenade getting a little scary there. If he cooked it a little bit too much, that could have obviously came back to bite him. So fantastic round from them. 6 pick coming out now for both sides as Rare will go away from Abana onto Maverick. Canadian will be picking up smoke as well for the defense.
Things looking a little bit upsetting there for DarkZero as they had good positioning to try and close that one out. Had 2 players on top of the counter defuse, but failed to account for the top-down positions there that FURIA were able to take with no resistance earlier in the round, mind you, as well. DarkZero had all the confidence in the world in their horizontal hold, but it didn't do much to stop the play from FURIA as they walk right down through white stairs and are able to get a freezer plant without too much of a conflict. A little bit beyond the freezer, I do believe. But either way, it works out for FURIA here as they take the opening round on the attacking side. Now DarkZero have to look for a response on much higher positioning here as they're going to go up to a 3rd floor hold where the geometry, the matrix of this defensive setup is a little bit more straightforward.
All right, well, we've pulled the cord on the back of Hyper, and he's 13-3. I think it's time to wind up Canadian at Eclipse, shall we? Especially in these coming rounds, we'd really like to see them get into this dogfight and assist DarkZero in pulling this one out. And if they do, it's a very good chance that they can start to run up some rounds again on this defensive side. Now for FURIA, climbing up towards the top of the roof. This is what you're going to see most teams do on Kafe to start off. A couple of pre-fires around the space, especially for this white window. This one happens all the time just because of the angle you saw Fantasy abuse. You can look all the way down to the ticket space, or rather the pixel space, and actually get some nice frags or anything on anybody that's trying to run up the white hallway. So make sure you're always checking that out if you are over in that area.
See the rest of FURIA here just building themselves up, waiting for the first opportunity to frag, and unfortunately, they're not going to find it. It's going to be NJR that pockets that kill instead as Lenda tries to rappel down over on Cocktail's side and gets caught in the process on the Ash here, leading to his elimination first in this round here. That's the team, except for Miracle, struggling in that kill department at the moment, and Lenda's no exception to that, currently at 3-7. Rest of the team negative as well. Everyone except for Miracle struggling with that issue. Fantasy, though, moving in. He's going to look to try and change up his own fate as he takes piano control and looks to immediately leverage that pressure over here onto the pixel and bathroom hold. Not going to see a whole lot position here, though. He walks right in and he's like, oh.
Crouch walk.
Okay, it's empty. No ability to hop back over into freezer, but he does have a very powerful position. Does some damage to Canadian, but no confirmation. He gets himself out of there just in time. And now, very rarely are we going to see him put his head back out again. The nade goes in, though, and no, NJR doesn't believe the threat is anything to worry about. A nade lands right up on top of his head. He takes him down in Fantasy. He's prepared to even get a second one. Oh, what an awkward play here. Eclipse had a nitro out. Doesn't even need it, though, as it's going to be his gun that takes out Fantasy instead.
Oh, the amount of emotions that I just felt in the span of 15 seconds, John. That was ludicrous. Rare now into a 3 versus 4 for FURIA. Frag grenade out, and yes, Eclipse almost losing his life as well to the exact same situation that we just saw prior for NJR. Canadian on quite low HP, but he needs to stay alive because he still has a smoke in his pocket as well. FURIA are looking for this plant, and it looks like they want Highs to be able to sledge the trash wall so that they can be going for a plant here soon. They still have 2 other guns despite that, so they should be able to hold this down if they're able to clean up DarkZero as they try and prevent this from going on. Highs upside upside down on Repel here for White Window, but after Hyper gets that body and Miracle falls, Heiz is the only one left alive. He's going to have to run all the way over to the Hell Door and try an entry from that point.
Nade pressure after that first nade kill came out was unfortunate as well here. Heiz, as you can see, not really able to use his at the moment just because he's been restricted too heavily on the Repel. And of course, you guys may have caught it, the second one whiffed a bit from Rare. He threw it right into an ADS, even though it was right in his pane of vision as well. So second one finally used out, but it's not really going to accomplish much. And speaking of not being able to accomplish much, time is running out here. So Heiz won't be able to do anything. He's just going to take an L on this round, and DarkZero respond immediately after their initial loss downstairs and take a successful third floor hold, reinvigorating the advantage they had at the start of this half.
And Twister trying to reinvigorate this FURIA roster as they go down 2 rounds yet again to DZ. And I mean, what a story we've got in front of us here, Blue. Especially with how DZ has been playing over the last couple of days. It looked like this might not be the best, but obviously the bounce back against TSM, like we talked about earlier, showed some signs of life. And now, I mean, it seemingly wasn't a fluke. This is looking fantastic for them as they're able to pull ahead of FURIA and that 2-round lead yet again here. A 6 pick coming in from Echo to Valkyrie for Pambazoo. More information in either, basket that you go with, but Valkyrie a little bit more dominant when it comes to that frag heavy potential.
At a 5-3 scoreline, DarkZero sits only 2 rounds away from solidifying their first point, at a minimum, I should say, out of this series here by putting themselves up 1-0. FURIA as well looking to fend that off, though, looking to stop that from being challenged here. It's only 2 rounds behind their opponents. No huge surprises when it comes to our operator pick, specifically for the defense. Don't expect to see many big changes over the course of this half for our attacking lineup either, although we did see a small switch specifically for Lenda as he's gone from the Ashe back over to the Yana, just because that's currently the trend for the meta. And aside from that, bringing everything we would come to expect for your general attacking roster on a Kafe lineup here. Specifically, again, the Finka making its way back into the fold for Fantasy as well to boost the team up and provide those adrenal surges if someone should go down at range. DarkZero, though, still going to extend themselves out now that they go back towards a new site here. We're going to see them maintain third floor positioning and try to fend off some of this early advances, from the FURIA roster.
Speaking of the FURIA roster, Miracle, currently the top frag for FURIA, as he has been routinely for this team. He's been having a heater of a LAN, and fortunate enough for him, they're waiting for FURIA. They're looking to try and clamber back here on round 9. They do not want to give DZ this 6th round as they'll start climbing themselves to the roof and begin this clear yet again. Hyper's in a pretty unique position though, especially with this FMG9. Oof. A very, very nice shot there from Miracle. That was just some guesswork that ends up paying out for him.
Gonna go on the air jab duties after that, as already got his 1 for this round, but either way, we'll certainly look for more if the opportunity presents itself. The rest of FURIA should be able to quickly clear out the rest of this third floor hold. I wouldn't imagine there would be a whole lot of confidence in the cocktail play now that they've lost Hyper, but it does look like possibly one more player rotated back up unless they were committing to this one with 3 from the very beginning. Either way, NJR ready for the challenge here at the edge of white. He'll get a bit closer to the angle now that he's been spotted by the first drone here. And he does have a second player a little bit further back. I believe it's Eclipse supporting him inside of the other position over by Cocktail also. He's going to take him up a spot just outside of the window hop out here, though, and he does have an opponent sitting on Repel outside of that, but definitely not wanting to challenge that anytime soon. And
swing and a miss.
This could be a bit awkward here. Both players spotting each other, and I think both potentially getting ready to swing out towards utility. NJR will find a bit more success in his avenue, though, as he's able to chuck out the Nitro, find Fantasy, and even us back up into a 4 versus 4. However, Lenda swinging back in immediately exchanges him. The advantage goes back into the pocket of FURIA here, and man, Lenda just barely surviving the secondary Nitro toss. That's it in terms of the explosive utility from DarkZero. Lenda will get down through the floorboards, but actually Rare, before Lenda can even be confirmed, is going to be taken out. What is that from Rare? Another one through the floorboards. Trades them both out. Heiz saves the day, though, for FURIA as he wins out the final 1v1, and this round instead is going over to our LATAM squad.
What a round out of both of these teams. So very scrappy, especially with the rotation from DZ up to the top floor. Beautiful double kill there, but FURIA still able to muster that one as they will stave off DZ's 6 point here. So collect their 4th. It's a kitchen service, kitchen cooking defense now for DarkZero. They'll head back towards the basement and hopefully hopefully it's not a ghost setup again, because I would really hate to see FURIA simply slip through the cracks.
Well, it's going to be another kitchen hold at the moment here for DarkZero, as they've already tried out their other usual site choices. Time to return to more familiar territory and see if they can yield success once again. Interesting enough that Tachanka also going to show its face here for DarkZero. Been seeing this happen from time to time with other teams as well. It's become a popular choice here to swap out Smoke for him instead, just because, again, this is a very large site. Oftentimes, the angles for the defense is going to be restricted more so towards a deeper portion of it, where you may not be able to necessarily chuck in one of those toxic babes. And even aside from that, you may need to block off multiple angles at once. It's a lot easier to do when you have 14 of those charges compared to 3 of them. Well, yes, they don't last for nearly as long and don't cover as large of an area. Doesn't matter if you just need to block a small doorway or a simple thermite or just can opener breach there. You can do it quite well with just a single one of those incendiary charges.
Absolutely, especially after they buff them just a little bit to make it to where they spread a little wider. Do a little bit more damage as well as, well, Tachanka right after his rework wasn't necessarily the greatest operator. He was definitely a very cool concept, but just wasn't working out how Ubisoft really wanted, so they gave him a little extra love, and now he's in a pretty solid spot, I would say, especially when it comes to his Kafe play. We'll see it yet again here, obviously, as John has been talking about with Eclipse now manning that op. We'll see if he'll be able to pilot it very, very well. DZ will be sticking to their guns, though, on the previous setup. It's the exact same, folks. I'm looking at the top down for you right now. It's still nobody in sight, everyone around the space, whether it be Red Stairs, Whiskey Bar, or VIP.
Eclipse will continue to hold this position stalwartly and gets an opportunity actually to grab one of the members of FURIA, but can't make the full connection onto the shot there. Fantasy will end up taking some heat in his own regard, but quickly gets that back up with an adrenal surge, so no huge harm, no huge foul this early on in the round here. FURIA still taking their time about things. We've only used a minute of the overall time bank, still plenty of opportunities for FURIA to try and set themselves up for a successful take yet again.
FURIA towards the top floor, needs some info game here inside of this space, but seemingly already aware that this top floor is clear. Seemingly aware that the second floor is clear as well, as Highs will be staring down the depths of Brown. And, well, as we're kind of getting some more interaction here with Highs, maybe not as clear as we initially proclaimed here for FURIA, as Highs still on edge as to where these DZ members could possibly be. About halfway through now as they begin clearing out this space. This is starting to look quite similar to what we saw the last time. Miracle won't not be able to get that camera that snuck into the corner there for DZ, and will keep some solid information. All of this verticality now being broken up by Highs can be pretty well managed here from DZ, minus the entry. Fantasy trying to find the chalk that's currently sitting out here. It's Eclipse, as will be sitting inside of Bakery.
I'm just waiting for this now, as will the rest of DarkZero. FURIA still taking their time about things. Another minute has gone by. Not a whole lot of forward progress has been made by the team. DarkZero again relying heavily on a horizontal setup. We can still see at least 2 players out from the site here. FURIA was able to brute force their way in regardless of this setup last time. They're going to be looking to do the same thing again as they pick up the first kill. The exchanges start to come in, but still favoring FURIA when the dust settles. However slightly this will be. Hyper caught off guard by a swing from Lenda, working down the red stairs, and now things look bleak for DZ, as only 2 remain, and both will be split up as well. NJR out on an island over here towards Baker. Actually, I'll correct myself. They're playing together here inside of Baker, but either way, leaves the site open for the taking. Their only saving grace is the lack of time right now. And
oh, he's got the lineups!
No confidence for FURIA, as they're finally going to be able to hop their way in. Where's the plant, though? Is it going to be able to work its way forward? Rare finally gets it down on the ground, but no! He's going to burn out! And the ranged incendiary grenade saves the day. That Tachanka clutches it out as DZ take it in a 2v4.
Canadian, Mint, and BC have to be as happy as a clam about that round right there. There is no other way that they win that. They simply hold off inside of Bakery, and you're wondering why that wall at the back end is so widely broken. That's exactly why. He can sneak in so many fire grenades back into the site that they don't even need to hold it. But that also means that he's of the utmost importance to the site overall. A fantastic round there from Eclipse, and very well done strategy-wise from DarkZero. That was absolutely beautiful.
And that's now going to be DarkZero up on map point here as they push themselves into pole position once again here. Just about to lose the advantage, but now we will be good here as they look to once again set themselves up for a lead in this series, going 1-0. If they can leverage that one final round, and they're going to be working themselves over into Fireplace and Mining to try and accomplish that. Once more, bringing an expected lineup to the table for it, as we're going to go back to the smoke now for the delay potential. And aside from that, the usual assortment of defensive operators to slow things down. Jaeger for the utility mitigation, Malusi as well to slow down the actual players, Maestro for the intel, and Cade for the double reinforcement on any necessary walls.
Yes, indeed. And obviously the top floor hold is going to be very important to DZ here, as well as, well, with the Fireplace Mining Hall, you really got to worry about what's going on in that Christmas space. But as we talked about before, Cocktail is still very, very important to this area because you want to be able to escape at the end of the day if things start to go awry with the offensive take. And that usually ends up going on, especially with a fiery squad like FURIA that can possibly light these guns off at any moment. And, well, after we get the break done, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like this one. It's going to be Amaru for the 6th pick.
Was waiting to make sure it got locked in, and indeed it does. So Amaru coming in the fold for FURIA. We'll see how well this works out. We have seen it get picked once before in this tournament here. I believe it was also by a Latin American team. Player got,
why wouldn't it be? I mean, come on.
Player got immediately like wrecked at the beginning of the round, though, from what I recall. And I'm pretty sure
Why'd you have to say that?
Pretty sure it was also a basement take. So
it was.
Didn't really work too well this time. Probably going to end up being a bit better, so let's wait and see.
Well, you bounced back at the end there. I really appreciate that. So we'll see if it possibly works out here for Rare. About 15 seconds from finding out exactly what he wants to do with this because, well, John, there's really only one reason to bring in Amaru, and that's to fly through a window or fly through a hatch in a very creative way, at least if you're BDS playing Consulate when that was in the map pool.
So we'll see where exactly the Gara Huck will find a target. Torrents could be a very bold play if they want to go directly for the site. Something like, once again, the dining room window. That would more than likely lead to an immediate pick for DarkZero, if my memory ends up being correct, and how those usually tend to pan out. But there's much more sneaky ways to utilize it and potentially put Rare on that operator into a power position through the use of the hook. We'll wait and see its first use here as the team, once again, still needs to set themselves up for the initial clear here in Hyper. We're looking to stop the initial clear as we can see him lined up to potentially fend off this play over towards Skylight. Miracle just needs to step forward to the correct amount and he'll find him, but it's actually going to be Panbazoo that gets found out first here. He'll be caught by Fantasy. It'll be another 5v4 setup here from FURIA at the beginning of a round.
Well, now for DZ, they're having to fight from the downward space. Hyper will fall off from the long bar as he gets sussed out from the drone. Eclipse will stick around, though. Has a couple forms of himself around. The Prisma's here to be able to assist if somebody does want to end up pre-firing this. Tries to get the window access, but doesn't end up working out for him. Really worried about that man inside of Skylight as well, but should be worried about what's going on inside of Cigar as FURIA starts to muster their forces. Some micro smokes coming out here as well as some possible fire arrows here from the Capitao very soon. Some stuns to burn things out. Hyper's worked his way back up into the space up White Stairs, and he's going to lose his life to Fantasy. Some nice shots from him, and he'll get the triple kill here as the map.
FURIA just waltzing right in, it seems, here. The extended setup from DarkZero leading to absolutely no success whatsoever. Way too bold with their capability to try and hold on to that one, and just no one able to close out a single fight here. So FURIA in pole position once more to quickly take control of their 5th round and put us on to the final one of regulation, where we could see success. Picked up, and okay, maybe we're not done just yet. NJR to Canadian, both finding responses here. Might only be 2 of them, but they've made it a 2v3 here, down from a 2v5, and suddenly this round is a whole lot more palatable, especially with no one else having transitioned down from the 3rd floor yet.
Yeah, the big problem right now, though, is the prevention's all on NJR. Canadian uses Nitro Cell to try and blow someone up, whether it be through the floor or on the same level. We really don't know, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. 40 seconds here remain for FURIA to actually get themselves in towards sight. Miracle still has some firebolts to be able to restrict access in certain spaces. Rare also might be looking for that hatch play like we were talking about before. We haven't seen him use the Gara hook just yet. Could come up into dining, but that might be ill-advised at the end of the day, as it seems like some DarkZero members are around the space. And JR will try and pressure through the smoke. He's got the SMG-11 out. One more smoke as well as Rare takes down Canadian, and JR will take down Miracle. The plant starts now for for Rare. Does NJR have the cover? He knows where it's coming in from, knows that one's up top, but the other angle now being able to be worked from Rare, and that's going to be a quad for him on the round. Very well done, as FURIA will stay alive.
NJR losing it right at the final seconds, but a valiant attempt made by him. However, the advances made by our LATAM team in the early round, way too much of an advantage for DarkZero to fight back from, despite the very nice attempt. Another pause here, folks, as DarkZero are going to call it very quickly. Never a better time than at the end of the match, of course, here, as they only need that one final round to solidify things for a 1-0 lead, but it seems it's been evading them quite a bit, so they're going to look to lock in one final strategy, get some input from the leadership squad here, get them a moment to relax and rethink what they're going to bring to the table, and then see if they can close it out. If not, we've got 3 more rounds that'll be chucked up on the board after this one. FURIA, you can see, trying to hype their players up as well. The coach certainly very emotive about the way that he's giving out his input at this point. So we'll see who will end up taking the cake on this 12th and final round.
Yeah, Twister has to be very serious about this one, Blue, because just as a reminder again, this is their map. They really, really need this, because if we're going about this in a traditional way, it should be a DarkZero 2-0 if they do get this map. But obviously we have opposite day quite often in Siege where people end up taking each other's maps, so we could still go to the full best of 3, but as of right now, DarkZero want to close this out in regulation. Here you guys go. We can look through all of the rounds and how they ended up going down. The big thing to point out right now is look at the amount of plants that DarkZero got.
Absolutely the case. DarkZero constantly forcing the issue on that, constantly being allowed into the site as well, with FURIA believing that they can pull off the retake, or just that last player or so kind of trying to go for a futile clutch, I think was the situation we had more often than not, as they would clear out like 3 to 4 players, and the last 2 would try to look for options to rotate back in. They'd really let the timer run down, and that would obviously force the plant more often than not, but oftentimes to very little result, as we saw there from the scoreboard. DarkZero controlling the large majority of them. They have come back on this attacking side, though, and are looking a lot more confident about themselves. So let's see if they can take it all the way, as they need just one more here to send us to a 6-6 scoreline and confirm the OT.
All right, well, DarkZero, as you said, headed towards the top floor to see if they can secure this. So much insight being brought from DarkZero right now, at least in secondary utility. 2 bulletproofs here for NJR as well as Hyper. Eclipse will be manning the ward in here as well. So could be seeing some sneaky glasses work their way in and possibly look through Rare's micro smoke bolts. That's a mouthful there. As FURIA will be out of the gates here in just a couple of seconds. Still have that IQ along for the ride as well, so we'll see if this will end up working out for them. But the big thing is that all of this utility is not going to be as easy to find. Obviously, you can get the ADSs and things like that, but Miracle really wants to insert himself on that second floor so that he can utilize his scanner to its best ability.
Rest of FURIA starting to work their way up, and just ascend to the top here to quickly begin the top-down clear process. Not going to be anything too eventful once again for that first minute. At the same time, nothing really crazy coming out here on the picks from either team. Rare bringing in the Capital once again. We had already seen that one round previously on this very same site play. And once again, the more interesting one is going to be the Warden pick coming in for Eclipse, probably used to play into a pixel position. So we'll see how he's going to be able to potentially help out DarkZero when his time comes. Fantasy in the same while, also already inserting himself into the building, but from the second floor. So this could be interesting how he's going to try to potentially throw pressure out here against DZ. Seems like a much more quickly played out strategy coming in here from FURIA, but we'll have to wait and see what the actual execute is going to look like once Fantasy wants to show himself against the setup from DZ. And okay, once again, pitching himself fairly close to at least one member of this team. Will he expect Canadian to be hiding out downstairs here in Reading Room? That's the next question. Fantasy certainly thinking that someone's down here with the angles that he's opening up, but also not having the confidence to venture all the way forward onto White just yet either.
Oh, Canadian's going to pre-fire as well. It's like the boogeyman coming up the hallway there from Fantasy, but he's going to choose to go over towards Pillar side instead. They still have Highs down on the other end of the hallway as well, so Canadian's going to continue to hold on to this all on his lonesome. Miracle starting to take some heat, and Highs will find Canadian, just like we talked about before, as they will pinch him out. Highs finding Eclipse as well, and all of a sudden, this is looking like a FURIA round, at least for the moment. DarkZero needs to hit a seriously heavy swing in order to bring this back into their favor. Hyper trying to find one up top, but his shots will spray wide onto the Capital of Rare as we enter the last minute.
Hyper simply waiting it out by the chassis here, going to hide in plain sight and see if that will potentially catch at least one or two of the members of FURIA off guard. DZ nearly brought a situation like this back in the previous round, but once again giving over these hefty advantages, failing inside of the opening duels is costing them hugely right now, as we've already seen one example of Hyper now trying to return shots, but he's got pressure on him from repels. He's very quickly losing real estate up on top. Now down to just 2 from DarkZero as Fantasy confirms another one. The Smite Bro Flame Bolt's going to work their way out here as well, nearly catching Hyper for yet another occurrence here, as he's just barely keeping himself in. It finally caught out by the Skeleton Key as well for Pies there to be able to eliminate Hyper and leave only Panba in this exchange. But he's got the M590 and he's got stairs control. That's not going to take him very far though. Fantasy, he's got the LMG and he's got the range to trade this one back out, as the overtime is now confirmed by FURIA.
I absolutely love Fantasy's energy every single time that we see their bench, constantly with the very dapper hands as they come together, and very excited about that win over DZ, and they damn well should be. They came back from quite the deficit. Either way, now into overtime here, and this is where the rubber hits the road for both of these squads. FURIA is going to be on defense, DarkZero are going to be on the more dominant side between these two teams, which is the offensive side apparently, as Kafe usually tends to go defense like we always talk about, but this time definitely not the case. It's going to be a fire hall mining room defense here, as both of these teams seemingly preferring that in a certain sense. We haven't seen too many reading room defenses inside of this one, so we'll see if it works out for FURIA here on our first round of overtime.
I think quite a few teams favor this as the start point here, either this one or the reading room play that you were mentioning before. It's starting to become a bit of a trend inside of this tournament, and certainly something that we will be keeping our eyes on in the future as more and more of these get played out. Away from that though, we've got some familiar things reappearing here inside of this play. Most notably is going to be the Kona stations working their way out for Lenda. So that'll give FURIA the capability to kind of reboost themselves after the initial shenanigans will get played out up on the 3rd floor. Any players take some damage there, yep, they can fall back, get a nice little boost up and be at full strength to fend off the actual execute in that last 30 to 40 seconds of play here. So for DZ, once again, they'll have their work cut out for them, but they won't have too many surprises to deal with as everything falls in line with what we have been seeing here over the past 4 days.
Well, Rare going to get a camera outside here, but that might be picked up by DZ pretty quickly as, well, it's mostly towards the side that DZ spawned, so more than likely heard that end up hitting a rooftop or something along those lines, but we'll have to see. Only 20 seconds off the board here for DZ as they begin working this map. Hyper will come up onto White Top on this side because of the snow on here. That's called White Top. Other side called Black Top for those at home that are a little bit fresher to the game, but at least that's what it's called rudimentarily speaking. A lot of teams have their own comms, so you might call it something different at home. You never really know. The ping's out as they're destroying these windows, at least over towards the White Top side. We'll have somebody repelled on the white window. That'll be NJR as he's got the counter here for Hyper just in case somebody does want to try and swing on bathroom or something like that. Canadian working himself in a pretty cheeky space. He'll get found out, but that F2 is just a little too damn good when it comes down to the battle up against the MPX. Canadian will take down Rare.
Pies is going to continue to wait for an opportunity for the swing to come out from White. Panba keeping Overwatch here also. Hoping once again to maybe catch the player sitting up on top, and he's certainly going to give an opportunity too, but he's a little bit too slow on the reaction. Lenda's allowed to trigger the Nitro Cell before going down, so it only leads to an even exchange that's still going to favor our friends on DarkZero inside of this situation here due to the earlier kill that they got as well.
That's honestly terrible given the circumstances. No more soft destruction for the DarkZero lineup as NJR was the only one wielding the hammer. Halfway through the round now as FURIA have found some headway, but obviously still down a man, but they could equalize at any moment. They've got their top frags all still alive, but as soon as I say that, Fantasy to fall as he'll be downed. Hyper with some low HP as well, but you can say the same about Canadian. Will they be able to secure this res? That's the real question here. High's now looking to the bottom hell door to see if he can do anything about this. Canadian will repel the south side of the building here to see what he can achieve as he opens up the dining window. Canadian actually going to end up fighting Fantasy, but that was just the down player, I do believe, bleeding out. Highs with one onto Hyper. Eclipse fires back. It's all left up to Miracle inside of a 1 versus 3. As he'll slap Eclipse, who jumps down off of the balcony.
1 down, 2 to go here, and 40 seconds to bait out. It's certainly not impossible, but now it is, as Panba knocks him out of the round here, and DZ finally take that round. It was very much needed inside of the end of regulation, but evaded them for some time. However, it's going to find them now here on the outset of overtime as they take the lead.
So the real question that we have to ask ourselves is, where do you go if you're DarkZero? I don't necessarily think that you go towards the basement just because they understand what the play is down there now. They're more than likely going to look for your bakery setup and try and get rid of your Tachanka. So don't go downstairs. What do they choose? Well, they're going to choose reading room, fireplace, hall. Probably, arguably, the best site across Kafe for the defenders simply because of the way that it ends up breaking down for you. Like we talked about earlier, if you have a solid delay upstairs, there's a very good chance that you can end up winning out the round. The verticality is pretty dangerous at the end of the day just because, well, it mostly isn't any site when it comes down to it. But still, there's a lot for DZ to do inside of this area where they can have some serious effects up against FURIA. Now for the FURIA side, they're going to send a curveball at DZ, an operator that we haven't seen this entire game. It's going to be Ying.
So let's see how a Ying play will end up working out here, specifically once again for a reading room hole. This is not necessarily a super common choice we see coming into play fairly often, but it makes sense again considering the flash execute that our attackers will potentially need to go for here. Not necessarily a whole lot of ways to stop that from the DarkZero side of things. Yeah, they've got the laser gates, but those are almost always going to get dealt with beforehand, and unless an ADS is stuck in somewhere very sneaky at the same time, that is also going to more than likely get flushed out well before any of those candelas are thrown into the room here. I mentioned, of course, the usual transition that is made over towards Janitor could very well provide an excellent opportunity, an excellent window to throw all those candelas directly into and flash out the large majority of the in-site presence in reading room itself for DarkZero.
Full setup up top for DarkZero inside of Cocktail, as to be expected. To castle barricade to look over the deployable shield inside of Cocktail, as well as FURIA have already gotten to the roof and began their working of the hatches. Highs, a little dink on the second one, but a secondary swing. I mean, I'll take 2 out of 3 if I were you. Either way, now FURIA will have to sit on the drone game here and see what they can do with this top floor information. They'll be looking in towards Christmas initially and droning out towards Whitehall, as we'll have a rappel here on the Christmas window from the sledge to be able to support Fantasy.
Fantasy ready to begin working his way around here and start dealing with the extended play from DarkZero, but also going to see him, never mind, go directly down to the second floor entrance on red here. He's going to see some of those pre-made holes over towards dining and probably be a bit cautious about it, but also seems to want to test the waters a little bit with some nades working their way in. That is going to be to try to pressure the third floor hold from our player inside of Freezer. Panba takes a little bit of damage from that nade, as you can see, but he's way off the mark in terms of actually hitting him head on for the full kill, so he'll survive and he'll continue to maintain his spot inside of the Freezer vault.
I'm a little scared for when I go home and try and queue up ranked with the amount of grenades that we've been seeing underneath the floor at this LAN. I feel like I'm just going to be sitting in a corner and all of a sudden get blown sky high. And speaking of getting blown sky high, FURIA, they're going to lose 2 bodies. It's Rare and Fantasy both down as the Ying Candelas go out. Highs will find Hyper, but Highs will also go down to NJR. Lenda needs to pick up this case, and Miracle needs to be here for some Overwatch, but with a minute remaining, what they really need is a couple more kills. They don't even have top secured here, as Miracle is around the white area. That barbed wire will obviously give up his location. Lenda's still downstairs inside of 90, as DarkZero are simply going to sit on their hands. They don't have to move all that much. All they need to do is make sure that the site is secure and that this plant cannot go down. It's up to FURIA to make the active play.
Miracle's the one going to move himself forward, but neither of these gates have been dealt with. No flashes remain in the pocket of FURIA either, so they're not going to be able to blend that out fairly easily. Lenda left alone now. Does have smokes to play with and actually finds a very palatable kill here now to take out NJR. That's opened up the site play, and that's going to be a potential plant opportunity too. Eclipse is going to look to mitigate that out, but they have no idea where this player is positioned at right now. Not inside of any default. Thankfully, it's a quick hop over the banister, and we can see Eclipse shut it down directly on the inside of the site as DarkZero yield control of map number 1. They need to take it to overtime to do it, but the job is done at 8-6 as they go up 1-0 on the series and guarantee at least one more point for themselves to finish off this group.
An extremely heads-up play there from Eclipse, but you could say that about a lot of his rounds. He saw that beautiful Tachanka round as well, be able to prevent FURIA from getting a plant down, and he does it yet again, stopping Lenda from getting the plant inside of reading. Fantastic game there from DarkZero as they steal Kafe away from FURIA in 8-6 fashion.
So DarkZero now sits on the precipice, but they're going to immediately focus back up. You can see BC rallying the team, getting them ready for the second map, as they don't want to waste any time. More importantly, they don't want to celebrate when it's far too early to do so. Still some things to be gained here by both FURIA and potentially DarkZero as well, as both teams try to maintain an upper bracket position coming outside of this group, which once again, that's a huge deal. Gives you an extra loss you can now take on as you move into the bracket stage, so you definitely want to try and take that if possible. We're going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we do return on the second map between these two teams. So DarkZero come out on top of the first map of this series, of course, now being led by Canadian, a very astute member of a very exclusive club here, Rainbow Six Siege, of players that have been able to lift that hammer not once, but twice, as he's now looking for a third, which would be the first player, I believe, in Siege history to be able to do that if he was able to make it all the way. We'll have to wait and see if that's potentially going to be able to happen. But first, we need to close out this group. We need to close out this match as well, so let's see if DarkZero can get it done in 2-0 fashion. Give them a nice little 3-point boost, which will actually even them out with TSM at the top of this group. I think that actually might let them potentially tie for contending with the upper bracket position as well. So that hope may still be alive and well here for DarkZero. As we take a look at the stats, of course, from the first map here, things once again looking pretty good for DZ, specifically for Hyper, who had himself quite the ball game at 14-9, supported as well as you can see by players like Panbazoo and NJR. Seems like all the expected players stepping up to the plate here for DZ in that first map.
Yeah, whereas for FURIA, Miracle, especially a huge player inside of this one, only +1 with a cost of 71%, but he's been having a stellar land overall, so to see him at the top of the board is honestly not that big of a deal at the current moment. It's to be expected almost, Miracle. You're going to have to do something even more fancy to try and prove us that, well, you can do something here for FURIA to be able to pull them over the line, because as of right now, it looks like DZ has a very strong possibility to take it all here on Clubhouse, but really, it's more towards the bottom of the scoreboard. Big comparison here has to be Rare at -5 and a cost of 57%. The lowest in lobby is going to need to pick it up to fight against DZ.
So let's see if DarkZero are going to be able to do this, guys. We've seen them all get sat down once again here. A few bumps in the road over the process of that closeout there, and in fact, wasn't even able to do it in regulation. Had to take things to overtime, but once we got there, it was nice and clean from the DZ camps. They had no issue whatsoever taking our overtime rounds 2-0. FURIA in the meanwhile, faltering quite a bit, failing inside of the clutch there, as there were some moments of glory where it looked like they were going to be able to come out on top of it as well here. Quite a few rounds where they also waltzed right into his sight and was able to clean up shop, specifically Miracle, allowing for that to happen more times than one, but at the same time, faltering in just a few of those key areas towards the end of our overtime rounds prevented them from being outright successful, and so they took the loss on our first map. You can see once again, just another quick look at the strat book, the strat sheets as it would appear, now sitting on the table. A whole lot of them there for our friends from FURIA, so let's hope they're prepared and ready to go here as we get ourselves ready to jump into map number 2. It is time, ladies and gentlemen. We're heading to Clubhouse. We're heading down south a bit towards Germany here to see if this will be a potential revenge ground for FURIA, or if it's just going to be the bitter end for FURIA inside of our group stage here, disabling them from pushing themselves further up in the standings for this group and knocking them out of a capability to make it to the upper bracket for the playoffs.
Yes, indeed, my friend, as we get into the bans, Thatcher will be the first one removed here on Clubhouse. As to be expected, he's our most banned operator on offense at this LAN, and Valkyrie being our most banned operator overall, but obviously on the defensive side of things. Flores will be removed as our secondary offensive ban. Those Rotero drones will not be used. You will not be blowing things up for free today. First defensive ban, though, what is it going to be? It's going to be Mira. That one fairly straightforward.
Flores, once again, another operator that we've been seeing kind of climb the rankings on the ban percentage overall for attackers, just because, again, he's very useful for quickly dealing with large amounts of utility. For instance, like extended shields with a couple ADSs behind it. If you can sneak the drone behind the shield, well, you can say bye-bye to not only the shield, but also the ADSs and everything else supporting it as well. Much cleaner than trying to throw a dirty frag grenade in there. Maybe you get one, maybe you completely whiff it, maybe you get half of them. Doesn't always work out as well, so a bit more of a precise method for knocking out your opponent's utility. And in a worst case scenario, you can do soft breach too.
Absolutely. A big thing, though, we have to talk about is, well, Canadian's going to pick it. It's going to be Kaid. Kaid makes it to the ban phase again with that Valkyrie ban coming through. So that means he'll be utilized for most of our rounds. Obviously, you and I casted a Clubhouse earlier where he made it through as well. And we didn't really see him used often downstairs. But when it comes to the Church Arsenal space, you definitely can still apply him to this. So I'll hold on to some hatches for you and make sure that they're not as easily open. That's going to be up to Miracle to have to do that. And now, quite an interesting 6 pick, John. You want to carry us through this one?
I actually completely missed it.
Oh, well,
it's tunnel vision there.
No, you're fine, my friend. It's actually going to end up being, oh my goodness gracious, why is her name escaping me? Finka to Ash. There we go.
Okay, yeah, so that is going to be quite interesting, actually. But it makes sense kind of in the LATAM sense of things. We've been seeing a lot of LATAM teams specifically do that. No, again.
Yes, that's true.
I agree with you. From a utility perspective, doesn't make any sense. But from a comfort pick perspective, which oftentimes I think matters more for these types of teams, probably going to be okay there. Fantasy, I'm imagining, has quite a bit of playtime on this one, and once again, that's going to reignite quite a bit of soft breach potential that was missing from this lineup up until this point, so maybe can help it out, but again...
I'm a businessman, John. My other alias is Stonks. We can't get rid of something that's so unbelievably good to the offensive lineup, right? Right? Well, apparently, unless you're Furia. But it looks like they'd much rather have the G36C and some breaching rounds. We'll have to see how Fantasy wants to utilize this on the downstairs setup. It's not necessarily going to be amazing, especially with highs already in here. They'll be able to use the skeleton key to break up the kitchen hall flooring and make some angles in towards armory. But again, we could be naysayers here. We'll just have to see. Big thing is, as of right now, Miracle will begin breaking up this wall. And yes, indeed, folks, if you got some eagle eyes and you know what you're talking about, you'll recognize that this is indeed the Clubhouse roam, the SSG roam, for those of you that know it by that name. It'll be extended out here as Pambazoo will be holding on to the top of cash stairs. Hyper will be playing inside of Stocks, and NJR inside of Secret Stairwell.
Got the Furia members starting to open up things, specifically on the second floor here. Ooh, trying to hunt out some of these early positions from DarkZero. Nearly seeing Pambazoo able to line up one shot of his own, and now Pambazoo getting lined up as well here. Gotta be careful with this transition, and a great bait. NJR is allowed to work himself out from inside of Stock after all the focus is on Panba over towards the red stairs as a result of that one. Players from Furia, specifically Fantasy, are none the wiser, and that Ash might be regretting the 6-pick onto that now, as unfortunately didn't lead to too much success here.
Unfortunately enough for Fantasy, really no Ash rush or anything.
I guess the good news is now like you don't have to worry about wasted utility because you don't even have it to begin with. So
I mean, technically speaking, you're still wasting utility because she had 2 breaching rounds. So, right? Right.
True.
Yeah.
Or likely those would have gotten gobbled up.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you kind of pick your poison here. I mean, still, I'm going to argue for Finka just because she's so damn prominent, at least right now in the meta. But obviously, Furia, you have your own will, you have your own consciousness, you're your own human being. You can do whatever the hell you damn please. So, I mean, if that's what you see fit, that's what you see fit. Unfortunately enough for them, obviously, they're still going to be down that mana with such low time Furia need to hop to, especially around the kitchen area. This hatch is still sealed, John, and this thing needs to be open. That's why Rare will be putting down the thermite charge.
Yep, Rare quickly popping that up. No resistance on it from DZ, so they have their point of access, but what they don't have is a whole lot of time here. 33 seconds remaining for Furia to be able to work their way down into the basement and get that diffuser onto the ground here. At the moment, with a player disadvantage here, they can't just throw themselves at it willy-nilly and potentially give up even more lives. So that makes it all that much easier for DarkZero to shut this one down. They're going to begin dumping their toxic bays onto the hatch to prevent access, but Rare finally confirms the first trade here. Furia have it in, but again, not a lot of time to work at highs, getting 2 kills on the way in. In the meanwhile here, the plant successfully down on the ground now as well. Where's the resistance from DarkZero? What was the plan to fend this off as Furia get it done despite a massive disadvantage up until that point in the round? DarkZero give way too much respect over to the execute, and Furia gets away with it.
I'll tell you why they're laughing. Things that shouldn't have happened. That. Thank you. 1 round up for Furia after DarkZero have a stellar start, but I mean, it's more of a false start than anything. No one really able to actually collapse back in on the site. The utilities misused from DZ. They're really going to want that one back.
Absolutely will, and they're going to try to find it upstairs inside of not even the usual expected site here too. Normally we would see teams go over towards a CCTV and cache hold following up their basement, but it seems gym and bedroom is more in the cards here for DZ. So let's see if this site will yield better results for our defenders here, for our North American representatives in this matchup. Is Furia getting away with a murder on a stolen round there? Once again, due to the fact that DarkZero seemingly just had no resistance to the site presence that was established by those first 2 picks there. Matrix falling apart very, very quickly. The trade setup seemingly non-existent for DZ, so not able to control the chaos as Furia began to work their way in.
Well, now an extended hold out here for DarkZero as Pambazoo will begin setting up the garage. This is going to be quite interesting here, actually. He's going to set up both of the garage panels as well as the 2 cache panels as well. The traditional way of doing this, folks, is actually the panels out towards CCTV, or they'll reinforce them over towards cache stairs sometimes. Those are usually what we end up seeing, and thank you, medics, for that. I greatly appreciate it. One of the best observers in the game, folks. Round of applause for him as always. DarkZero will be setting things up over on the cache side with that extended hold out towards the cache stairs. This is one that they started to adopt a little later on once Club started to get a little, straightforward. They're like, what else can we do with this space? Oh, I think we can put a deployable shield here, put some ADSs around that, and yeah, that's going to work out for us. So that seemingly will work out for DarkZero as well.
DarkZero now lining themselves up once again to try and be successful in this hole, to try and waste out a large majority of this time. Bank no reinforcements, as we can see over here on the primary CCTV balcony. We're going to see, of course, the extra reinforcements going down onto the construction wall. They want to make that a little bit harder to access here, even out Electric Clawed as well. But as you guys can see, that's not too much of a problem for our friend with the blowtorch. Maverick can work right through that and can ignore all forms of wall denial that have been placed here. They even do get the spot from a drone onto the position of the Electric Claws. They're just going to prime a nade real quick, chuck it in. That should knock it out. There you go. And now it's a very easy job for Rare to throw in his Exo and open up this wall. Oh, never mind. They got a little bit too late on that one as a second Electric Claw was thrown out there. Second A, though, can follow this one back up, and as long as it wasn't thrown in like a weird spot. Oh, it actually went. Did it? Oh, there's a hole into garage, and it went, or into a bathroom, excuse me, and it went right through that. So that's unfortunate, as I don't think they can get that wall open now.
No, they can't. Hold on, let's look into this.
They still have more nades. They actually do have 6 nades.
Wouldn't you know, Fantasy's back on our main man, or main woman, actually. Finka on the offense as well, so looks like they're going to have to use the torch instead to be able to get this open, as they don't want to rotate the other nades across. They did end up bringing 6 in this scenario, but since Maverick is out and they want to hold the other angles across the board without rotating someone, it's what they'll have to do. They'll be able to make a hole in here, but this should be fairly straightforward for the DZ members to be able to hold on to. But past that, this could be a pretty damning round overall, as we start to see some pretty interesting utility usage. The frag grenade will come out towards Hyper's location as Rare starting to take some heat. Hyze will be able to clean up Hyper, and oh my god, the kills just coming through in such grandiose fashion. It's now to 1v3 in favor of FURIA. It's all left up to Pambazoo, and what can he do? Well, he can do that initially here. It'll be a double kill for him as Linda's setting this plant down. He needs to find Hyze or something. Well, Hyze will find him instead. What a round there from FURIA, but what a clash of titans inside of that.
Absolutely the case. Once again, we see a huge surprise for FURIA, as they seemingly from a utility perspective are locked out of the site entirely, but from the kills department, they have no trouble whatsoever bullying their way into the site, as we saw a massive spree of kills, and from I believe what was a 3v3 at that point forward, FURIA dominated, taking complete control yet again of another hold here from DarkZero and forcing them back down into the depths of the basement to try and find success on their third.
Well, FURIA are just keeping a lot of their options open right now. That's the big thing that I've noticed about LATAM teams in general at this LAN, is that they tend to keep a lot of the different avenues that you can affect different people across the map at least open to them, where they can possibly push in at a proper moment and find a kill, like what we saw on Hyper, where it's like, okay, everyone's across the map, Hyper's getting pressure from the top side, the nade comes in, I'm just going to walk to the bottom of red, and oh, wouldn't you know it, he's out from behind his deployable shield and a freebie. Things like that really work well for these teams. It's working well for FURIA right now in the current moment. DarkZero don't feel like running things back. They feel like doing this extended hold again all the way upstairs. It worked really well for them. I will say this though, FURIA obviously having the cutoff. Fantasy just losing his gunfight the last time, but with that 100 rounder, I don't know how this one's going to go. Oh, he's got the spear instead. I'm sorry.
Nope, all good. It's going to be up in the air regardless, however, as FURIA once again have been winning primarily through the advances of their fragging capability. And you can see it here. Lenda yet to die as of yet. Here, Hyze at 4-1. Rest of the team as well here with at least 1 kill to write home about. Can't say the same for DarkZero. While some players have been able to hold off a bit of the pressure, unfortunately, it doesn't seem as cohesive as it appeared back on our previous map here, as a huge swaths of the DarkZero setup are getting eliminated. Okay, this is going to be interesting. A hot drop coming in here from Fantasy, but no one on the other side of it, so it's going to be a bit anticlimactic at the end of the day, as no one will be there for the response. However, NJR is on the outside of Logi, ready to fend off the challenge, and NJR sees the Tracers, doesn't expect them to change direction, though. It ends up eating a whole lot of bullets as a result of that. The Nitro as well, swing and a miss here, doing virtually 0 damage to Fantasy.
I think that this is just the time for DarkZero to try and level up. They really got to take it to FURIA in this, as FURIA once again, it's high-octane gameplay. They'll take down NJR, they'll take down Hyper, and they'll take down Canadian. It's a double for Fantasy, a triple for Fantasy, and he can pick himself up too. Pop your utility, Fantasy! He's waiting on the cooldown right now, and he'll finally get it done. Bambazoo will clean up one, as this extended hold has been completely obliterated from the LATAM team.
Panba finally fragging out, but can't get himself through the long haul doorway there as the trade comes in. Once again there, we see the players on FURIA bullying their way into a 3rd consecutive win. And DarkZero took the fight. They got the time. They said 3 p.m. on the playground, and they were foolish enough to meet him there.
Absolutely, my friend. Walked right up to the flag post and were like, well, I guess this is how it ends. What I would really like to see inside this tactical timeout from BC is just like, hey, guys, honestly, we kind of just need to set the playbook on fire here. I think that this really just needs to be down to the audibles and what we can do in-game up against this squad. The strategies are not working in the current moment. It's a 3-0 half from FURIA so far. We have to tie things up, and they're playing extremely aggressive. We need to play with each other, and we need to take the fight to these members. Playing defensively isn't going to help you here, because if you give FURIA the map, they're going to take it to you. You have to affect them in some way, and here's the big thing, John. They need to know some respect, because right now they are just walking over DZ.
Problem for DarkZero right now is they've already tried to play it aggressively. They've already tried to play it passively. We've seen that over the course of the 2 basement holds there, where they turtle for the first one, try to play the SSG extended room on the second one. Neither one yields to a very successful hold ultimately at the end of the day here. So where's the middle ground? Where's the successful strategy coming in from DarkZero? Well, we'll really have to wait and see on that. Maybe rely on flanks, because once again, this is a very forward-thinking FURIA here. This is one that's focused again on their aggression, not necessarily focused on shoring up their setup, watching flanks and things like that. So that may be an avenue that DarkZero need to try and exercise, be able to get back into this. Problem is, again, there's no guarantee for success. There's not even any guarantee that those players would even be able to access those particular flanks here in any given situation. So it is going to be a bit of a risky strategy to rely on if DarkZero can make it work. And even then, that's replicating a lot of success off of just 1 to 2 players here. So something else may need to come through here for the DZ team to finally get their footing inside of this second map of the series.
It's Goyo to Mozzie here for Canadian on the top floor defense as we start things off for the prep phase of round 4. They will indeed have some wall denial, but only in the likes of Eclipse, so be paying very close attention to where they choose to put these electro claws. It looks like they'll more than likely be going around the garage space, as we would expect normally, but that also means that the main CCTV wall is easy pickings for Rare to open up, and since Canadian did not adopt Goyo into the lineup and chose to actually use Mozzie instead with his pests, they won't have those extra Goyo shields to be able to utilize and actually delay any time or be able to hold themselves around any space here for CCTV. Eclipse will be given the terrible job of playing rafters, as this is usually the hot spot for not only grenades, but most of the offensive utility is they try to kill you off and go for a defensive, or rather a default plan inside of CCTV.
So for the members of FURIA, they're going to start their setup once again for the initial clear. A bit more of an arduous process this time. We won't be able to directly go in and find any opposing players from DarkZero in the open, and more importantly, out and about from the site. We do have a very site-centric setup once again here, but that hasn't stopped FURIA in the past. Already seeing Rare use the first EXO to open up access to the main balcony. Step 1 accomplished. Now we need to focus up on an area more than likely like garage or construction to finish up Step 2. Step 3 will be getting into the site, however.
Well, now for FURIA, begin propelling themselves through round 4 here. Both of the walls electrified downstairs, or at least one of them. They will leave the far panel soft down low, so Eclipse will have to be worried about fending that off for a time. Canadian setting up a window for a hop out over towards the balcony space for Master as well. Highs looking like he wants to go down towards dirt, and he'll do exactly that. This is pretty rudimentary, as you can usually push in through here and come up secret and catch somebody off guard, but finally DarkZero starting off on the right foot yet again here, and Pambazoo seemingly aware. Hyper will get one as well, and this is the aggression I wanted to see, John.
One-sided rounds.
Into FURIA in the moment. They know what they want to do with the map. They know how aggressive they've been, and well, they're going to bag 3 kills inside of the opening minute and a half.
Once again, another spree of frags coming out for one team and one team only here. It was all FURIA in the last round. This time it's all DZ here, bringing it back to a 5v2 less than 2 minutes into the round. Another nice nade getting chucked up from below, a bit of a blind one too. He had the tracers to play off it, but still had to follow through the reaction from Hyper, and nearly gets him as he sits about 5 HP now after that nade was chucked out.
Yeah, Hyper feeling the pain on that one. Lenda, though, taking a little heat himself, but really only about a bullet's worth. Is Canadian aware of the situation?
Yes.
Oh, he is glaringly aware of the situation. Lenda gets bodied. It's down to Rare outside. And can Canadian get 2? It's actually Pambazoo. Don't know my silhouettes. I need to be a better commentator, as he'll take him down outside of the Master Bauk.
A flawless round from DZ, a huge change up from what we were seeing in the previous 3 rounds. Now time to see if this team can replicate it here, as they're still down, but certainly not out inside of this map as they look for a 2-0 victory. FURIA, though, already with half the rounds taking control of here in this half. It is at best going to be a tie game for DarkZero here. That's assuming they can find the same degree of success on their other sites as well, as that was only the first time they played in a CCTV and cache. The options will be a bit more open-ended for FURIA as we return to areas like the basement and more than likely the second floor gym hold for the final round.
Oh, Rare going to be bringing in Osa as well. Canadian switching out to Warden. And as we've been talking about this DarkZero team, Canadian has been that guy when it comes to the constant switching of ops inside of the lineup. He is the variable to the remaining team's constant, and he really likes this role. He's done this time and time again over the years, did it all the way back in the day with Evil Geniuses, and still does it now to this day with DarkZero.
So we have an update from the Alpha Stream game. Folks, if you want to save it for yourself for later, go ahead and mute. We'll give you a second or two.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Elevate!
Ooh.
Scrimming in ranked
What?
has pulled up a massive upset versus
What?
TSM. 2-0 over them as they take that series.
Get the out of here. I'm just gonna self-bleep myself here. That was what? I was honestly very surprised when you said that. I thought they would be going to the full distance, but either way, we'll get off the subject so you guys can unmute those browsers. And well, now that you guys are back, welcome to it. Miracle. We'll be getting our drone, or rather camera, inside of Garage initially here, as they'll be begin clearing out this bottom space. Fantasy now with the drone as well in tow, so droning out not only stock, but also making sure that no one's around the secret stairwell. As of right now, all of the DZ members all the way downstairs. Eclipse will be playing inside of Dirt with Pambazoo and Canadian inside of the main space here for Armory, but Pambazoo's going to fall off. Hyper, one of the more important pieces to the puzzle inside of this one, playing inside of Blue. FURIA will now begin breaking up the top floor, as we're also very accustomed to. Highs working on this kitchen hall space, and that's exactly how you want to see the buck applied.
Fantasy potentially going to get himself the early duel here behind the big white box in Blue Room. Doesn't seem as though Hyper wants to really take the challenge this early on, though, and neither does Fantasy, so he'll wait this one out on the Nook. Opens up an opportunity to push back through the oil pit. At the same time, not really ready to descend into that just yet either. It's going to be a lot of build-up, a lot of posturing, as has become the case here on the previous few rounds here, in the previous holds in the basement as well here. FURIA wants to try and gather as much intel as possible before leaping in and more than likely giving it their all. As once again, we already seen in previous rounds. Fantasy actually does end up challenging down the blue stairs there, and he's going to pay a hefty price for it. Over half of his HP now gone. It's Hyper, more than likely, throwing in that damage from behind the box.
Big question for me right now is, where exactly is Rare? I haven't seen him inside of the round. What is this guy up to? Oh, here he is. He's over here inside of the bar space, as they'll be able to get the Moto hatch open, and NJR will go down, but not before his Nitro Cell goes off. It takes out Lenda. Frag grenade out, should be able to clean up NJR, but it actually won't. This gives Pambazoo an opportunity to pick him up if he so chooses. Hyper could obviously hold onto the door as well. No more frag grenades here, but can they get him up? Doesn't seemingly definitely want to do so as of right now. Fantasy will find one. Actually, no, Fantasy will find two. He got that earlier pick up, and actually, no, he actually shot through the wall and I believe dusted two people with a couple of bullets. NJR's still down. I thought that was a body that he collected, but it's up to Canadian and Eclipse now to try and fend off FURIA.
Canadian playing with fire here as he transitions back to the inside of blue. Still gonna have to deal with the swing from Fantasy. Takes him down as well. It's a triple kill now from Fantasy. Doesn't even matter that he's at null HP. However, finally Eclipse gonna be able to pepper that out, and more importantly, drops the second player also. Lenda finally finishing off NJR. Finally leaves Eclipse alone, and mid-reload, Rare will finish off the round. That's number 4 on the attacking side of this map. Now up and confirmed for FURIA.
How does Fantasy get away with so much right there? Well, I can tell you how it initially started. Obviously, the Hell Presence device getting him very deep inside of blue, unbeknownst to poor Hyper, who's just sitting in the corner, and all of a sudden a masked figure comes out from the shadows and grabs him. And, well, I really want to know where that secondary frag came from. I really do believe that he just ended up banging the wall behind him and finding that kill. This is very unfortunate for DarkZero, as the setup was looking pretty crispy initially, but FURIA obviously having some other things in the cards for them. We really didn't get to see what Osa would have done overall for that setup either, so a little unfortunate at the end of the day, but either way, if you're rooting for the LATAM team, you got to be excited about this scoreline. 4-1 on the offensive side.
Yosa coming in once again for Rare, as they're going to try and use those shields to negotiate further positioning closer to the site. Might not even really need it, to be honest with you, with the way that FURIA was able to clear out this setup last time. We'll see if they can replicate the same degree of success, however, considering the DarkZero has hopefully learned their lesson from the last play, but at the same time, thought the same thing about Basement, and that turned out not to be the case again, as once more a third win is found there for FURIA, and they continue to excel here at a 4-1 lead, potentially 5-1, if they can find this site for a second time as well. DarkZero, though, at 4-2, that would give them a semi-palatable scoreline if they're going to be able to bring a strong enough attacking side to come back into this one and still keep their 2-0 dreams alive.
Well, it all starts right here, John. They really need this defensive round right now, because if FURIA gets this, I really don't know what the argument is. I mean, DarkZero has a really long road ahead of them on the offensive side, and it's all going to be with minimal mistakes. So as of now, FURIA out and onto the board. We'll see exactly what they want to do. Hyze will be starting us off in a very similar way as he skeleton keys down the master door. Fantasy looking to see if he can possibly sneak one past anybody inside of this space. He'll pre-fire the cash wall, but nothing really going on.
Fantasy still hunting for early targets here. No one on DarkZero presenting themselves. The Claymore does go down to fend off any would-be jump-outers. Now he'll be able to keep watch in case there's going to be any aggression. We normally see a shot or two coming in towards that corner from a player in DarkZero who might have decided to hold on the inside of the CCTV area, but not going to find any this time around. Looking like DarkZero have stuck away from that and are holding at most just the cash room here. And meanwhile, of course, Miracle should have no problem whatsoever getting this wall open nice and quick here to give the team access to the jacuzzi balcony door.
Miracle continue to torch this up. As he'll finish that up, the right-hand side will be soft, and Hyze will open it with the skeleton key, and a pretty quick shot fashion as he continues to break that up. Stuns into waits now to see if there's any ADSs inside of that space, and clearly not as of right now. Miracle opened the top of the bathroom wall as well, and this is going to be a prime time for frag grenades to begin pouring through. No nitro cell inside of the bathroom either to be able to toss back out and on to some unbeknownst offenders, so it's just going to be FURIA working that space for some time. Miracle is going to shift across over towards the master balcony and try and play this out with Fantasy, who will hop back up here as they're starting to look for a potential plant spot.
Oh, clutch with the Osa shield coming down here, saving Guerrero in this situation, but the impact very quickly deals with that position here. However, he's got a second one, so going to be able to throw that one down without too much of an issue. Still taking a little bit more heat. Now going to go for the plant situation, but at the same time, yeah, you had one impact. You had to expect there to be a second one, but still an opportunity to maybe get Rare back into this. Lenda will be lost due to Hyper's position. He'll move in to take out Fantasy. Hyze down as well. A Nitro to eliminate Rare. Miracle trying to turn this back around as FURIA are down to only 2 this time. It's DarkZero finally with a player advantage, and they just need to take out Miracle, excuse me, as well as Lenda to be able to shut down this round here. DarkZero once again, so much powerful position to play from, but it's Miracle Trying to catch at least one player in the bathroom. No, Lenda gives himself away, and so does Miracle. And with that, DarkZero shut down another round for themselves and make it a 4-2 half.
Look to the far side of that DZ bench and thank the man, damn it, because without Eclipse there, I really don't know how that ended up breaking down for them, but luckily enough, it'll be 2 rounds for DZ going into the offensive side. This is doable at the end of the day, but it's still going to require a Herculean effort from the entirety of the DZ team. For FURIA, should be cool, calm, and collected coming into this. Very happy that they were able to secure their multitude of rounds on the offensive half here on Clubhouse. This will be starting us off with a gym bedroom defense.
Gym bedroom going to be an interesting choice for the starting site once again for FURIA. Again, not the expected start, but given the wild way that FURIA has been playing into this map so far, it won't be too surprising to see them go for it, as it gives them quite a bit of freedom to take early fights, to challenge the early positions from DarkZero, even after just getting access to things like the jacuzzi wall or pushing in from the construction single-piece wall, things like that as well. FURIA can get directly in the way of that and stop DarkZero from getting any momentum going for themselves. This may favor the FURIA formula perfectly, considering the way that they've been playing this map up until this point. Unable, of course, to translate that 5th round, but that's okay, seeing as they got 4 attacking rounds here on Clubhouse. Certainly something that is going to force respect out of DarkZero, as they now need to be careful to make sure they don't fall even further behind and force out the 3rd map of this series.
Well, it's going to be an extended setup here for FURIA, very similar to how DarkZero enjoyed handling this entire setup. We'll have a shield at the top of Cash, make it 2, as we'll have some ADSs inside of the space as well, and more than likely Lenda's initial discs going around this area as well, so he'll be able to collect more of those magnets going throughout the rest of this, as it'll be on a timer. Look over the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that number on Lenda's little profile there, slowly ticking up, and then also keep track of what he has inside of his pocket as well in the current moment. So he'll toss that one. Doesn't really hit its mark, but here in a second he'll have 2 instead. About 30 seconds here now for DarkZero as they begin to open things up here for their offensive side of Clubhouse.
Opening things up quite literally here, as Eclipse is going to be working on a quick opening of the jacuzzi balcony. Left panel gone, and now the right one will be the focal point. If you want full access to it, it would seem here, able to make their clear that much easier. The soft panel's already taken care of 2. Eclipse just wants to make a slightly larger hole so that he can chuck a nade into the depths of the bathroom and drain out any support that might be sitting in there. Oh, that's unfortunate. It goes right into the shower and right into a position where it's not going to be able to deal with the Goyo shield.
Well, FURIA is starting to back off as the calls begin to come out from Miracle over inside of this space. Don't necessarily know if this is a full commitment here from DZ here, at least for FURIA's sake, as Eclipse will finish up the wall. Entire wall now down, and Canadian with a pretty cheeky air jab here to be able to assist them with anyone trying to run amok up that main stairs space. Now NJR down low here will be holding onto the bar area. This is beginning to look more and more like a weights plant. Now what is FURIA's reaction going to be? Oh, this is a prime nade here. Be able to deal some serious damage to Lenda. Unfortunately enough for NJR, it won't secure the frag, but it'll only be 1 bullet's worth to be able to pick him up later on.
Yeah, Lenda gonna have to tuck away in a corner now and hope he can line up some headshots here. That'll be his only hope for trying to pick up kills in an even 1v1 exchange, assuming he even gets that opportunity. Fantasy now ready to challenge some of the action, working its way into the site, but it's gonna be rare to strike first. You're catching NJR down in his position over towards Bar. Fantasy does the same. Rare tries to turn tail from his fight, but will get caught by Hyper. Unfortunately, though, him along with Canadian going to be the only 2 left for this attacking side. As although, yes, we see the elimination of Rare, it's not going to mean a whole lot here if the team can't follow it through. Miracle, an easy catch against Hyper as he's caught clearing barbed wire. And Canadian now off on an island, left alone, and not even on the right floor as of yet. Still has to reascend up the main stairs here. Chucks the flash in to hopefully blind out anyone that might challenge here, and he continues to just press right forward. The confidence is certainly something that needs to be respected here by FURIA as he moves forward. Actually misses the pickup on the kit, but don't think he's going to be playing too heftily for that at this point either. Tries to take the duels. Lenda will shut him down on the first one he takes, and this first round of the second half goes right into the pocket of FURIA as they now go up 5-2.
That was just not the round for DZ that they were hoping for. A 5-2 lead now for FURIA as they get their very first defense on the board early here. CCTV cash to hopefully put them up and onto map point. And now you just got to start questioning what DZ's exact idea was coming into this clubhouse. If you look towards the top right-hand side of your screen, you'll see this is indeed DarkZero's map pick, folks. Don't let the score line fool you. Clips will be adopting the case here, as well as Maverick for this lineup. No 6 picks coming in just yet, but as soon as I say that, Canadian will dash those words away from me, and it'll be Ace instead coming in for the triple hard breach lineup.
Let's see if that's going to be enough for DarkZero to not only get them into the site, but get the kills necessary to knock out FURIA as well. These guys have been fragging their hearts out, specifically Fantasy at 10-5 right now, already into double digits, well over the 1 KPR at this point here. While other members of DarkZero, Panba having himself a good game, but a lot of the others have fallen off in a big way and only just barely holding on here, keeping up with the trades at a bare maximum. It's not doing enough to push it over the edge. Allow for DarkZero to take these rounds outright here. Swiss cheese on the wall. Once again, that's just going to slow down the clear that would normally be coming in from the Maverick. Makes it a bit more of a arduous process to get the clean line across and bleeds out an extra 5 or 10 seconds or so, as our Maverick will have to correct their mistakes should they be going for that. But with triple hard breach, might find other methods to open this up, especially if they can get access to the stock lobby down below there. Just chuck a nade from down below. They can also take out the mute jammer, but however, Lenda is not going to be able to take out anything at all here. Panba immediately catches him as we see Lenda trying to throw out some shots to that doorway, but instead it's the shots thrown at him that eliminate him under these circumstances. Bring it down to a 5v4.
Oh no, the door shoots back. Tends to happen to the best of us, and it'll happen here to Lenda. The wall will be immediately opened as they're going to put it top right of the panel. That's super, super smart there from DZ, knowing that that mute jammer cannot cover that entire wall any longer. Pambazu also going to blow the back end, and this is exactly why DarkZero has brought so much hard breach. She can apply to both of these spaces. They can still get control down low, and they still have nades on deck with Eclipse as well, and that torch if things go so very wrong that they would need him with like somebody getting picked off or something like that. And that's exactly why they have Hyper inside the lineup with the extended soft breach as well. You don't want NJR to walk up and sledge the wall when you're trying to open up CCTV or something like that. That's where things get pretty risky and you can end up losing your sledge. You much rather do it at range with something like the Lifeline. And speaking of life, Miracles lost his, and so has Hyper, as Fantasy will propel himself out of the breach onto Plat and remove him from existence.
3v4 now, lined up against the members of FURIA, and it gets even worse. Panba waltzes right into Garage and makes it a 4v2 by eliminating Fantasy. Rare down below, Highs up on top. Each player needs to be responsible for a floor for each of them. So DarkZero, the nade's going in, and okay, never mind. It's just Rare alive now as another nade strikes true from down below and leaves only our lower players still in the fight with well over a minute to go as well.
He could do quite a bit.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Just gonna do nothing.
Yeah. Little bit of nothing there. But, you know, it is what it is. Fortunately enough for DarkZero, they're going to be able to stave off FURIA from getting on to match point. That'll be their 3rd round as they're starting to collect these. Able to at least get one as of right now. And where does the defense want to go after that pretty lackluster CCTV defense? They're going to head into Church Arsenal instead. Downstairs they go. Kaid will be picked up into the lineup again. Mute will also be here as well for some extra wall denial. Pambazu's going to 6-pick off onto Ace. Might be switching that out here in just a moment as he's flickering back and forth, but Highs with the 6 picks onto the Kaid here to see if that can possibly hold onto these hatches up against Eclipse's torch.
So basement in the cards here for our Latin American roster. Very fitting roster to bring to the table for Fantasy. Along with Len, we've gone for the max drone denial here, as both the Mozzie and the Mute will be brought in to accomplish that. Cade can reinforce the hatches as well as the church wall also. And once again, your other forms of usual delay when the Banshees on top of Miracle, still bringing in those smoke charges for the final 30 seconds or so. Attacking roster still brings plenty of hard breach also between the Ace as well as our Maverick to assist with the opening up of those hatches, and eventually, if time should allow, the access to the church wall, should that be DarkZero's path forward. Haven't necessarily seen that be the method used, however, so hold our breath on that one and see if that's going to be the case when we get a bit deeper into the round. Actually, it looks like at least one of the Electric Claws is going to be used to support the extended position, as they're going to play into the SSG roam upstairs here. Jacuzzi balcony being electrified. So unless we see DarkZero wanting to commit a lot of utility towards that to clear it out, FURIA will have quite a bit of an extension here to waste all the time of DZ.
Yes, indeed. As the clear begins now for these members, we'll see if Hyper can find some extra intel here for DZ. Still a pretty straightforward setup, all things considered, when it comes to the basement overall. They'll have to worry about what's going on this top floor. Canadian will lock up the window so no one can try and hop out, and he's actually locked up the entirety of this garage. So do have some access, obviously, to Oil Pit now for the offenders, and FURIA can try and fend it off, possibly from the window if they do just stand up into it, but you definitely do not want to hop out. That's going to be the first minute burnt up here for DZ, as Miracle's on a pretty cheeky angle here outside that tends to be utilized pretty well, but oh, he won't be able to find the shots. He's looking for the head, but Canadian's going to make it out. Luckily enough for him, as Miracle did have the angle, but the hollow just a little difficult to use at that extended range, and JR takes down Fantasy as he tries to rotate back towards main stairs.
DarkZero getting a lot better at punishing this aggression from FURIA here on the attacking side. Now the drone intel helping them out tremendously to be able to spot out these players and more appropriately line up some of these early kills for themselves, and more importantly catch the rotations that we just saw Fantasy attempt to make here. Rest of FURIA's extended play no longer valid because of the loss of that player. It's too big of a risk to keep the rest of these guys out on an island, especially by themselves, since Fantasy can no longer support from the first floor. So everybody falls back to the basement, and we'll just wait out the remaining minute and a half here. Plenty of time still used by DarkZero, so FURIA will still be somewhat happy with the result of that, even though they lost a player.
Yes, indeed, as NGR begins droning out the kitchen space, and Eclipse with a beautiful find. Didn't even need the insight for that one. He'll just do it all himself. But oh, Eclipse from the death will be able to take him down. Hyper also with a beautiful frag, and it's all left up to Highs. DarkZero starting to put these rounds together.
High's continuing to wait this out, just holding the pixel angle against the Oil Pit push. He knows it's going to come eventually. That's his probably best bet to get a surefire opening kill here against the 1v4 and be able to start the leverage to work himself back into this round. But okay, a bit more adventurous, but it walks right into the waiting arms of Hyper, who has no problem shutting him out. And overall, putting another very successful attacking round from DarkZero up on the board. This is going to be like the tournament of the switched meta. It seems like so many maps that traditionally have been massively favored towards the defensive side are seemingly going the other direction. It's been a very strange tournament to watch for that reason. Well, as we move into a tactical pause for FURIA.
Yeah, FURIA's going to have a tactical pause, a little bit of time to talk about this, and time for us to talk about this meta a little bit too, John. I guess we might as well do it since we're here and we have a tactical timeout. So let's just break it down for you guys a little bit. Something that's happened right now with the offensive side for Rainbow Six Siege in general, not even on Clubhouse, just wipe that off the board for a second. Just sit here with me with operators. The big thing right now is that ARs as well as the LMGs on offense are very, very damaging. On top of that, you also have so many frag grenades you can work into these lineups on top of Gon 6s as well, so you can clear out so much utility and also use those frag grenades like depth charges underneath, like we've been seeing this entire LAN. I can tell you, for watching Siege basically the entire time that the game's been out, this is the LAN with the most frag grenade kills. I'll put my life on it.
Yeah.
Now, past that, you also have to consider the damage model and rate of fire of all these guns on offense. You're talking about anywhere from 700 to 800 for most of these rifles, with a damage model of over 40 for most of them. If you take any of the operators that are currently in the defensive lineup, John, just pick one. Just put your finger on one for me. Malusi, she's got the MP5. That thing's got a damage of right around 27 to 28 with a rate of fire of just around 750 to 850. So if you just compare those overall as well as the damage drop-off for her MP5, you are in no realm in comparison to what the offense has to deal damage with. So that's why we're starting to see a big trend. Although, yes, these maps might be defensive-sided, the offense in the current moment just simply has more damage dealing to do to the defenders than the defenders do to the offenders.
If memory serves me correctly, this was something that I believe the Ubisoft Balance team has been working on over the past year or so now, is try to give the attackers more power. Seems like they've accomplished their goal pretty well.
They've definitely done that.
So much so that we'll have to see, of course, what the stats look like after this event and kind of comparing from the other majors and whatnot throughout the course of this year. But I might be time to start twisting the tile back in the other direction a little bit here. We'll have to see, of course, like I said, still plenty of data to sort through before we start making judgments like that. But let's focus back up once again for the rest of this match here. DarkZero still on the comeback train after dropping the first half on the defensive side 2-4. They're only one round away from tying it up again against FURIA at 5-5 as they're going to go for their CCTV cash hold.
Yes, indeed, my friend. We'll have to see what Ubisoft wants to do with this in the future, but as of right now, I definitely say things are a little spicy when it comes to the offensive side, but we'll just leave it at that. You guys can make your own assumptions at home and how you feel about things. So, now for FURIA, let's see if they can finally get this 6th round they've been looking for so desperately. Looking to see if they can do it on the CCTV defense. They have some electro claws inside of this as well to be able to lock up at least 2 walls here, whether it be some panels down low or the CCTV wall or both panels. We really don't know just yet. We'll have to see. It looks like they're not too worried about the CCTV area. They're actually going to end up locking up the single panel for construction, and I'd assume that the other one, oh, it's actually in Rare's hand. He's going to wait for Pambazoo to try and put this down. I think that the timing's going to be pretty close here, but obviously Pambazoo can hear that Electroclaw go down as well, so they're just going to take their time with this one, and obviously they've got the nuclear option, which is Eclipse and his torch, and, well, everybody and their brother is used to torching this wall.
Alright, so let's see if DarkZero can continue to field the success we've been seeing from them over the past few rounds. Shouldn't be too much of an issue to get past most of this utility that's been set up by FURIA. There we go. First Goyo shield down with a nice little frag grenade chucked in. No supporting it, I should say, to hold that back. Eclipse as well at some point in the next few minutes here. It's a good idea of how you can see how the Swiss cheesing of the wall kind of messes things up. For Eclipse, it's just making him go back, double if not triple check things. There's like a small chance you'd occasionally see him have to go back to a point that's overexposed as well, so that Swiss cheesing does, on very rare occasions, present an opportunity where a defender might actually be able to take out the Maverick through it as well, but most of our tier 1 pro-level Mavericks are not going to make a slip-up like that. They'll be very, very cautious in a worst-case scenario there about how they have to proceed to go back in and reopen that should they need it.
Well, Hyper will begin adopting the Raptors angle all the way out here. Unfortunately enough for him, he's got the 2.0 scope as well. Canadian pre-firing into Raptors as the Selma charge will eat up that wall and now make Raptors even more difficult to play for our Garage player. Now Hyper back onto the drone here to find some extra intel. He'll see that Banshee on the center building or center shelving unit there for CCTV. It's Lenda currently inside of Garage, as he'll continue to add magnets to the equation. Eclipse will obviously start torching that wall down low so they can work their way into this space as well, but it's actually already been done. Pambazoo's got that, and oh, it's going to be an immediate trade here as Fantasy. He's going to actually end up taking down 2. They've gotten Lenda, and now it's a 3 versus 3. Masterfully done here from NJR to equalize, but very low time now for DarkZero.
It's been the toughest part about these plays here for FURIA is the trades are so strong from DarkZero. The setups are great, but thankfully able to get 2 going that time, so it serves to even out the numbers, accounting for the earlier pick that was found from DZ. Oh man, Miracle ends up walking right into that one as well. NJR didn't even have the plot read appropriately, but now with 12 seconds left, FURIA can still leverage their time here. A Nitro cell available for Rare, but he needs to get in position to use it. He might not have even heard the plant set. Out goes the Nitro though, and it's going to take down 2 players as well, allowing him to also get the 3rd with a quick follow-up on his rifle. Beautifully done by Rare, as another point's going to go up on the board here, pushing it to map point now for FURIA.
It's like they forgot about who was still alive. No one accounting for Kaid inside of that situation, and so the Nitro cell gets so much done. A double kill, no less, as well as a beautiful shot out of the AUG to end us off here as he'll take down Hyper. And finally, that 6 point comes through here for FURIA as they guarantee overtime for us here on Clubhouse.
Basement's in the cards for FURIA as well, returning to a site where, I'll be honest, they've struggled again to yield success due to the clearing potential from DarkZero, the positionings they've been able to maintain, and FURIA's inability to cool off here and avoid taking these early peaks here, which has given DarkZero time after time again the opportunities needed to knock out some of these early defenders that want to play the aggressive game. FURIA, let's see if they'll cool it off or double down here as they try to close out this map and send us to our 3rd and final one over on Oregon.
Well, now for FURIA, it's going to be the basement defense here, so let's get into it and see how they want to try and hold this down. We'll have Rare sticking to the Electro Claws of Kaid for at least a hatch and some walls. to see what he exactly wants to do with those. But past that, the big one standing out to me has got to be Alibi here from Highs and what we could possibly see out of these Prismas. They're just pretty annoying to deal with at the end of the day, especially if you try to pre-fire around corners and you end up tagging one. Well, it also tags you and you get some free information back onto the offense for that. She's pretty cheeky. I've loved this op for a really, really long time. Honestly, ever since the release. I thought the MX4 Storm was slept on, and then so did everybody else, and they started using it, and then they nerfed my gun, John. Wouldn't you know that?
Fortunate.
Yeah, real sad, because that thing was such a fantastic gun for a very, very long time. Still is, but just requires some extra sauce in order to use it.
All right, so well into the round we go here. You can see FURIA a little bit more timid this time to maintain any position outside of the basement itself here. Lenda being the prime example of that one, only just barely peeked over the top of the first floor landing for main stairs here to maybe, just maybe catch a bit of a haphazard clear from DarkZero that can be abused. Not going to end up happening more than likely, though. You can see the drones buzzing around there for both Panba and Canadian, which will clear out this position fairly quickly. Away from that, though, we are going to see a bit of an extension out from Miracle there down towards Dirt Tunnel, but that will probably only become relevant if DarkZero need to go for a clear in that area, which they haven't done previously, and I don't believe they're going to bring into the play now.
Well, drone to get Hyper into the actual space for Secret. Can't really push himself forward any farther, though, as, well, exactly what he's staring at. That Banshee will be the call sign if he's able to do anything. Concussion out to make sure that there's nothing to be able to catch this, and an impact to get rid of the actual Banshee, so he has the option open later on for the push. He'll continue to hold on to the cross and check some drones. Not his own, though, as he's already lost both of his. He'll just be holding a flank here for a little while. Hole out, and oh man, it finds Rare. They'll be able to put a nade down there soon enough and be able to get this hatch open, unless they just want to torch it. That works as well, as DarkZero finds the frag they so desperately need.
Another contestation leads to another victory for DarkZero in the opening pick department here. As Rare knocked out here, huge piece of the fragging puzzle down, and keep in mind too, the stats for FURIA right now are a little bit skewed once again, so Rare's been a double kill on the nades from NJR, and now already up to a triple on the round. One nade, 2 players dead, and only 2 players left in the site. Lenda can go 1 for 1, but NJR's on the cusp of an ace right now, but Hyper's gonna steal it. It doesn't matter though, because it's such a quick success from DZ. He'll be perfectly okay with that. However, NJR still walking away with a beautiful quad.
Prayed to the siege gods for that one, as it picks up 2 FURIA members lackadaisically moving around.
And he threw that one down, not up.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? That's pretty funny, because we don't see that happen too often as of
Not
right
at this
now.
tournament.
Yeah, exactly. So fantastic stuff there from NJR, as he will be counting his lucky stars, as he seems to have quite a few of those inside of this matchup. FURIA, though, they're going to be feeling the heat now, as DarkZero's within striking distance to put this into overtime. And now, where do they want to go? They're feeling as though the basement is the play yet again here. Canadian, he's bringing the Jackal back in, and this is when we've seen Canadian get real ratty. Whenever he has this op, he really likes to reinsert himself around the map and see if he can possibly find a play on somebody that is just unbeknownst to the situation. And we'll have to see what he can possibly do. Also, just as a reminder, there's a lot of soft breach over that kitchen space, so if Canadian happens to track the right person, they might just end up losing their life by some fire.
So let's see now if FURIA can yield success yet again here. Now they'll thrust themselves into the basement once more, trying to see if they can field the same amount of success on a retry for this site. We are going to see FURIA try to play out in the open, but keep in mind, guys, DZ have been dominating in the opening department here. FURIA has been abused every single time they have tried to play into an extension, and this round could very well be no exception to that. Let's see what FURIA will be doing differently this time to potentially bolster that. As once more, they sit on the cusp of a second overtime, but this time it'll be them that loses the lead to DarkZero.
NJR and DZ out and about. 20 seconds off the board now for them as this round begins here, as they need to secure overtime. Torching up the CCT TV wall to start us off will be Eclipse. As well, it's going to be some pretty easy beginnings so far. Definitely not as electric as we saw from the FURIA side so long ago. Some panels already being broken here for the single panel inside of Construction. Also, Jacuzzi already being handled by Thermite as well. That was a job of Pambazoo. Hyper will be able to get the default cam and clear out the remainder of this with drone work as well as some fire in through this space. But oh no, they didn't drone out weights. What is going on, DarkZero? You have to be watching for this. FURIA, the entire team,
bye-bye,
is inside of main stairs as they'll all run back down. I don't know how you blunder that hard and allow Hyper to walk through the wall, but it is what it is.
That's all they needed though, right? They've been really struggling. To be fair, like a couple of rounds being an exception, DarkZero has still had to trade out against FURIA quite a few times to win these few rounds, but normally they've had the first kill or two go into their pocket first, and that's what's allowed them to kind of be able to waltz into these sites without too much of a concern and still be able to win those out because they already have the advantage by the time they get there. This time it's not going to be the case. It's FURIA that takes the edge on that one, and Canadian now going to be probably very confused. He sees a heck of a lot of footsteps over here by the main stairs, trying to rotate himself back down, where he'll catch Mozzie and start to ping him out to make sure that nobody tried to survive over towards the kitchen over like the meat locker or something like that if they wanted to get cheeky for a second kill.
Now here's the biggest issue. We're already down to 1 minute and 5 seconds here, and Canadian looking out towards Dirt to see if he can possibly secure a frag. Eclipse now in the moment will be end up torching the hatch open. Has to finish this up here, and then the rest of DarkZero can start pushing themselves down into sight. NJR will pre-fire secret stairs just in case somebody is in this space, but they're already all the way down inside of blue. FURIA just waiting for DarkZero to be the members to strike. This is a big issue now for DZ. This is starting to look like a FURIA map. They will propel themselves down into blue. The smoke start coming out this way. And obviously with that pre-fire, that means that obviously FURIA are getting in their path. Another nade out to be able to get rid of the Banshee and allow NJR some space to work with, but there should be a cross being held down low, and yes indeed, it'll be held by Highs. NJR will now see him as we enter the last 15 seconds. Somebody has to do something, folks, and it'll be Pambazoo and NJR to start us off. They need to keep going though. Rare, no nitro cell on him. It's all via gunfire. Canadian takes him down. He needs to pick up the case, and it starts now. Can they prevent it? Lenda pushing forward. Miracle goes down. Lenda in behind. Can Canadian secure it? He does! Nitro cell out! And it gets basically everyone! It's down to Canadian! He's in behind Dummy's box!
There he is!
Secure this! And Lenda gets it done! FURIA secures Clubhouse, and we're going to map 3!
Lenda with an absolutely massive clutch, working his way through pretty much the entire DZ roster. A Hail Mary Nitro. He knew what he needed to accomplish. He knew he needed to get the swing out into the open. If he could stop the plant, that would have won the round there, but knocking out 2/3 of the resistance with a single explosive device, that'll do as well. And on top of that, because he got so deep into Arsenal, it obscured his position. Canadian had no clue where he was at, so he had to just guess on a swing, and he guessed wrong, sending this map into the hands of FURIA and sending us to a third and final map on Oregon.
What an insane ending to Clubhouse. If you would have told me that's the way that was going to end, I would have called you crazy. Hello, everyone. What an amazing map we just witnessed. And let me tell you, I am so very excited to witness the third. These two are sending shots after shots after shots at each other. And FURIA, what a Clubhouse from them from start to finish. It was getting a little bleak there for just a moment, but that offensive side, very fiery. We get over the defense, and what a way to end it in such grandiose fashion.
And an unfortunate momentum breaker there for DarkZero as well. They felt themselves really coming back into it, but once again, just could not field enough of an advantage for themselves on the defensive half there, faltering at 2-4 and making it just a little bit too unpalatable as they got themselves onto the attacking side, where it took them a bit too long to get their footing back, and ultimately allowed once more for FURIA to edge it out on the very last round of regulation. Map 3's right around the corner, folks, but stick with us. We gotta go to a quick break real quick. When we come back, it is the final map of this series.
My name is Luis Abrantes. I'm Miracle, and I play for FURIA, and I'm second support. We had the change in the roster last year, where we changed Bersa and Alves for Fantasy and Rare. I think everyone played their best at the role they're at. It's helpful that we are a young team and we play against some more experienced players. I think we like being underestimated. It's better they don't talk much about us because it doesn't put a lot of pressure on us, so we can just do our game and prove them they are wrong, you know.
That's all that's left, and they only have 20.
What we learned most from Mexico and Sweden, I think it was the experience that we got alongside what we needed and what we were missing to get the wins. I think we're missing some adaptability, you know, in some rounds. Sometimes we got nervous, so we couldn't finish. We lost the advantage. You know, we know what they were doing, what we should do, but we just froze. We are doing a lot of things in the couple past weeks, working strategies. We are working to improve ourselves as a unity. It's going great. It's not an easy group. It's not the hardest one, in my opinion, but I think we have pretty good chances. The one team that me personally I wanna beat, you know, it's kind of been a no joke, but BDS, you know, every time they ask, I say BDS, so I'm gonna keep it up until we beat them. Get ready, guys. FURIA is coming for you. Which team's the favorite for win? Oh, it's a tough one. We have pretty big dogs around here, so I would have to say Liquid. Então, galerinha, fica esperta aí que dessa vez não tem só um cachorro solto não, viu? A fúria toda tá solta. Se prepara, hein? I don't know how to translate that.
After a booming attacking side, a little bit of a bumpy road on the defense, but they managed to edge it out. FURIA take control of our second map of the series and now send us on to a third and final one on Oregon. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the group stage for Six Invitational 2022. We are coming to a close of our groups relatively soon, just a few matches left, but this one has yet to find a winner. And while, yes, we already know the team from this group that has been eliminated, we don't necessarily know the team that's going to top out the group and manage to take home that upper bracket seed. So this match has a lot of implications leading into that, especially with the Elevate 2-0. Little spoiler there for you there. Sorry about that, but regardless, with the Elevate 2-0 considered,
Don't worry, I'll fight him later.
That has left the floodgates open for either one of these teams to potentially move forward as well here, I do believe. So we have to get ourselves into this map once again to wait and see who's going to be able to top this one out, who is going to be in that pole position, and who is going to have that extra life when we get ready to move into our playoff stage in just about 48 hours or so from now.
Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to punch him now. I can do it just in the moment. It's okay. You know,
I'll be back.
He's just like slowly getting away from me like, guys, my reach isn't that far. I'm sorry. But either way, guys, we're going to show you these map stats as of right now because that was a crazy one. If you guys are just joining us, you missed the most insane ending to a Clubhouse. What a Nitro cell coming out from FURIA, but what a game coming out from them as well. And it was pretty interesting going back and forth from both sides. NJR with a very big game. Fantasy having some big moments, but obviously the cost kind of telling the tale of the tape for him as well. And as for the rest of the FURIA squad, it was just a very scrappy game back and forth that they tried to fend off the DZ members and did it in a pretty convincing way.
Bit of a mixed bag from some of the DZ members, as we can see here in the stat department. Hyper, who had a fantastic map number 1, fell off big time and only ended up even ultimately at the end of this second map here. Instead, it was NJR and Panmizu doing most of the heavy lifting. And well, yeah, that's going to look like it is enough for the most part. In the entry department specifically, Hyper was dearly missed in that second map, hurting the team big time, specifically on the defensive side, where both teams struggle with an issue of wanting to take those early challenges, wanting to jump out and get themselves into those duels to start the round off, but way more often than not, always favoring the attackers. FURIA plagued by this one as well, but FURIA still able to edge it out due to the great clutch capability of their players, especially as we saw there right at the end. So now it's going to be a whole lot of the same as we get ready to move into Oregon for one final battle between these two teams.
It's a clean slate in between the two. They both have a map, and it all comes down to Oregon. Who can take the best of 3 between DarkZero and FURIA? Love to hear what you guys have on social media and inside of the chat rooms, but we're here to find out. Only moments away from Oregon launching, and I gotta say, John, I'm extremely, extremely excited for this one.
It's going to be a good one for sure here. Just providing you guys an update in terms of the group standings here as well. It's looking like Elevate currently actually on top as of their most recent match, so they will be working themselves forward. It's FURIA now looking to steal the first place away from these two teams. If they are going to be able to pick up the 2 additional points by winning this matchup, they will go up to 8. That'll leave them in a leading position and leave DarkZero in last qualifying position for this group at 4th place here. At the same time, DarkZero takes it. That'll move them up to 3rd, but it's only going to move them up to 3rd as they can only get 2 points out of this matchup. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen, as the bands have started, and they are already getting spicy. None of the usual basement assaults for this map here, as Ying is down for the count and banned out for this map.
Muy caliente, my friend, as Ying will be removed from the board, and we're also going to have Capital. Man, just give me this energy.
DarkZero saying, we don't need that thing. We know you do, though, so we're getting rid of it.
I am loving everything that we're seeing right now. DarkZero, what are you taking away for the defensive bans, my friend? Let's see what you have on the docket. It's going to be Valkyrie, a little bit more plain Jane at the end of the day, but she's just way too strong currently. So, defensive ban coming in from FURIA, and do they want to send us something spicy down the line? We'll see. It's going to be Mira, so the defensive side making a whole heck of a lot of sense. The offensive side, a couple odds and ends out there. The biggest thing we got to talk about is Thatcher is now in play, an operator that we don't get to see that often. As well, as of right now, he's got like a 60% plus ban rate here at the LAN.
To be honest, it's pretty low.
Yeah, in comparison to what he usually gets. Yeah, usually you see like 80% plus. But Valkyrie actually being the most banned op at this LAN. Last time we checked, she was at 75%, and I think like all of the games past that, she's basically been banned as well. So she's probably at around 80% at the current moment, which is just truly, truly insane. But I mean, if you guys know anything about Siege, you know how loaded that kit is, and if that MPX is in the right hands, then somebody's probably clicking heads.
I'll call it a nice, even 83.
Oh, okay. All right. What do you want to put on it, huh?
Dinner.
Okay. Oh, guys, you hear that? John's going to be buying me dinner soon. That's so nice. Let's see.
Wait, what's the margin of error? You're going to give me a margin of error here. Give me like a percentage I'm allowed to be wrong within.
2%.
All right, I'll accept
because I gave
that.
you 80.
I'll
Is that
accept
fair?
that. Yeah.
I'm going to click it. Are you ready?
Yep.
72% ban rate at the current
I'm
moment.
buying dinner again.
Woo! let's go, baby. We're getting burgers tonight. Hell yeah. All right. Now that we've got dinner plans figured out, John, thank you so much. It's time to... Hey, don't tell people that. Either way, though, DarkZero and FURIA, guys, let's get into it here on Oregon. I'm extremely excited for this as FURIA will be headed down low for the very first time. And Highs, you're kind of missing a piece of the puzzle there, my friend. Luckily enough, Lenda's got you. This will reinforce the security hatch.
It's okay. I'll take care of it. As Lenda will indeed make sure that things will be secure on the hatchwork. That's just a utility eater more than anything else, though. Once again, not necessarily a huge requirement to reinforce. That would have been the end of the world had it gotten forgotten, but at this level of play, something you're not expecting to see. Fantasy taking an early duel versus one of the members from DarkZero as well. NJR trying to swing in through the front door, and he won't be alone. Canadian also takes garage control directly next to him here, and now that they have confirmed the presence inside of this front area is gone, and for the most part, FURIA have fallen back. They'll still need to reconfirm that here in security, and should have a drone to be able to do so in a moment. They can draw their focus over here towards the freezer stairs. It seems as though FURIA want to do the same thing, however, as you guys can see, Miracle will be here for the contestation if someone challenges him.
Oh, it's a staring contest at the current moment. Drone out, and the M590 just bodies NJR.
Drone just awkwardly sitting there.
So unfortunate, and yeah, that's a terrible thing when you have to watch one of your friends get dusted while you're on cams, but that's exactly what we're going to see here. FURIA starting off this map in very similar fashion to what we saw the last time, and do you want to step up to the plate, Hyper? Are you next on this list? You can see Smoke just going to keep standing here. It's a fake. Nothing going out. He's not going to swing it. Miracle still would have shot either way, so it's probably a good idea that he didn't push it.
Miracle just continuing to patiently wait this one out here. Getting a little curious from the looks of things, but
how much time they've wasted.
No real need for him to go upstairs here. This is a massive time sink here. Half the bank already drained out by FURIA, by Miracle more than anyone else here. DarkZero need to move away from this one here and start focusing up with somewhere else on the map, whether it's going to be the construction play, the E-hatch drop, whatever you want to work towards. Stop tunnel visioning into this freezer play, because if not, they're going to be out of time before they know it.
We'll have to see if they continue to hold on to Freezer. And update, there's not a single person inside of that space anymore for FURIA. They've all backed off. Miracle's actually all the way over in Elbow. Look at how active this guy's being. All the way from the freezer staircase into Elbow, and now he's using his utility. Oh man, what a teammate. FURIA has got to be happy with him throughout this entire LAN. He's been such a pivotal piece for FURIA to be able to secure maps. And not only last map, but this map looking to do the same. Rare now inside of Harry Potter as he starts to move up. The grenade will be caught, and Hyper just gets dusted. He'll move forward and won't be able to win the fight against Pambazoo, but they're still ahead on man advantage, especially after Fantasy picks up Canadian. It's a 2 versus 4 now as DZ are locked inside of construction. They don't know about the man inside of Pillar, but they seemingly aware as he'll step out. Fantasy will take down one, and oh no, Eclipse, not like that. He gets destroyed here by Fantasy. And guys, I wish you could have seen that little highlight there for just a split second, but the gun model does such a good job of blocking out Habana that he doesn't even see her initially until she just springs into his view, and he's like, oh my god, he's right next to me.
Had a solid like 2 seconds to go for the adjustment. The Habana player didn't even seem to notice it initially either, so both players blundering a bit there, but falls into the favor of FURIA as they take solid control of their opening defensive round here at the end of the first. 1-0 lead for them, and they can move right along to the upstairs hold. It's Kids Dorms next for FURIA, as they're going to make a few slight changes to the lineup here. Most notably bringing a Mozzie in for Fantasy. Not going to be necessarily needing the Aruni utility inside of this round, but of course they'll still have the Jaeger to at least eat some of the nades, which will still be quite prevalent here. Flores is back in the play. I think he actually has been for 2 maps now, but either way, we're going to see him for the first time in quite a while here. Is he going to use it to try and ease the access of clearing out some of this utility, as all the walls will block off quite a bit of that and make it quite bothersome to do so without access to this operator.
We did not see him on Clubhouse, but we will see him come out for DZ here on Oregon. A very useful operator at the end of the day, but luckily enough for FURIA's sake, they have the direct counters to this. The biggest thing that was going about before this operator was introduced is that we had a lot of explosive devices and things like that were all pretty much the same thing. It was either a throwable or a launcher, and it blew stuff up. with him coming in, he now has Rotero drones, which that's the biggest thing. They are explosive drones that you're able to propel through the map and try and get rid of some utility around the space. Now, the only counter to that happens to be mute jammers as well as Mozzie pests. Now, I know for you Mozzie fans at home, you're like, oh, I get to have an explosive drone? No, it just destroys it outright. So that's the biggest thing to highlight there for you guys. So now as DarkZero begin to get through the map here, we'll start off with the Gemini clone coming out of showers and looking up towards white. FURIA does have a hold downstairs inside of the kitchen security area. Obviously, a connection in between these two, and now Rare with a pretty cheeky angle, but can he land the shots with the SMG-11?
Well, we'll certainly find out when he receives a true challenger. Need to wait a bit for that, though, and no, Fantasy to be the first to be knocked out this time. DarkZero opening things up a lot more cleanly on the second round here. No opportunity for a trade immediately seen by FURIA either. Rare, of course, still present over here inside of security, but as you guys can see from the silhouettes, not a whole lot of challenges coming his way. And oh no, the bait setup is perfect. Flushing Rare down the freezer hatch right into the waiting arms of Canadian, who has no trouble leveraging that into a second kill for DZ. Third being found there too as they quickly open up the window outside of Attic and nearly leads to the death of Miracle.
I was sweating bullets there for a second, but I mean, when it comes to Miracle, he was actually witnessing bullets. That was a little scary there on the window for just a split second, but luckily one of them will only graze him for a little amount of HP. And now, for both of these members, it's seemingly aware that they need to play this one close to the chest. Canadian doing his best jackal foot forward, at least here, so clear out downstairs, and oh, Hyper, that's going to be so very free. Lenda goes down to the depth charge from downstairs inside of kitchen, as DarkZero are looking to claim their first round.
Miracle and Highs both trying to wait this out from inside of the site now. Not a whole lot they can proactively do. Okay, never mind. I'll just shut up. As Highs is going to swing right out and find at least one response here. Not going to be the only one he gets either, as Panba's next up to bat, and he too will fall to Highs. Now bringing this down to a 1v3. It'll be difficult to stop the plant. Gonna look to do it anyway. Unfortunately, the bunks blocking off pretty much all access points here. Highs will no longer even have a duel from the white side of things. He knows the plant spot. He can certainly see it from here. And he's got a clean rotation over to the inside of Kids here, so should be able to get an angle against the planter, but he's wasted so much time that the planter is now just going to safely tuck away from behind one of the bunks. And we're by the big window as well. You're going to now see positioning maintain. Red by Highs. Again, great situational awareness inside of this, but just kind of impossible to clutch out.
Absolutely, my friend. Way too many bodies being lost by FURIA early on there, which makes the end game nigh impossible for FURIA inside of round 2. They'll be looking to round 3 to improve upon this scoreline. But you could say the same for DarkZero. Fantastic clear of the map as Canadian actually ended up catching somebody off guard inside of Freezer. And this is what I was talking about inside of the last map. Canadian really likes to insert himself in random parts of the map and end up catching these stragglers off guard. Now, the big thing is that Jackal is really good for these kind of situations because you can track down people not only with actually tracking them, but you can get the sense of direction that they're traveling just via looking at their footsteps. So you can be like, okay, this guy's traveling over towards Freezer, I'm going to track him and kill him. You know, things along those lines. And the other thing is since Canadian really likes to switch up operators, he can then choose Jackal initially for the show phase, and then past that, once we get to 6 pick, he can switch it out. They still think that there's a Jackal on the board, but now there's a Finka.
Well, to see how the first floor hold will go, we go now to FURIA's third site play here. Things obviously went a lot better for them. We'll see now if they can yield results going to the tertiary site. DarkZero still bringing a lot of the same flair to the table to try to pick up that same amount of success for themselves. Once again, bringing most notably the Flores in here for Panba to bleed out that interior site utility, most notably the stuff towards kitchen and on the kind of breaches nearby there as well. They want to be able to knock those out without too much conflict, and more importantly, be able to keep their players at range during that, because these wild swings from FURIA have been tough to contend against. And if they try to do it with nades, there's a good chance that someone from FURIA might pop right out and shut them down in the middle of trying to set things up.
Well, now for DZ, Get some early insight into Big Tower here, as that's going to be one of the priorities, as we are going into the kitchen meeting defense. And this happens to be a pretty unique site when it comes to the overarching story of Rainbow Six Siege and the Defender storyline, as this site ends up playing out in a pretty unique way, I would definitely say, especially with the hatch plays that you can have. You can see even Rare right now over inside of security. The big thing about these hatches around this space is you can actually prevent plants from going down. Fantasy's just going to give a kill up to Pambazoo. He runs outside. He does have a nitro cell on that op, so he could have just tossed it up onto the balcony, but with the new run out timer,
yeah, a bit bold to assume you get away with that.
Very, very bold, John. You are very right in your assumption there. So either way, some Aussie Pass will grab up some drones, but I mean, FURIA is really going to be considering that one for later on as DZ look to pull ahead.
Well, DZ up in front now with the opening pick having gone into their pocket. Eyes as well, tries to get himself to the inside, and while Rare will find a successful nitro toss, it's Eclipse that wins the battle against Highs in the trophy connector, taking him out of the play, and as you can see, leaving a massive gap opening towards Garage. Is going to leave Lenda quite exposed now as well. He'll have to be careful about his positioning as he falls back to the depths of Kids instead, where the walls are a little bit more sound at this point in the round.
Absolutely. Has to worry about this double panel here, but has to worry about more than that. There's so many DarkZero members in this space, and if you're a DZ fan, you want to see them start pushing this out. He can drop down this hatch, but they really need to secure this area, and they will achieve just that. Still 3 members of FURIA walking around the map. Currently, Miracle inside of meeting with the other 2 over towards the south end of the space, at least when it comes to their actual site setup. So have a player down around the freezer stairs as well, as I believe he will descend the stairwell and look to see if he can possibly prevent a plant later on. But as this timer continues to dwindle, this is starting to look more like DZ could be going for a kitchen offense, and Rare honestly could head this off at the bottom of White Stairs. Canadian, he'll nade in, sees the man at the very last second, and does he hop in after the frag grenade? He will not. Instead, he'll use one of his adrenal surges and see if DZ can possibly assist him going into these last handful of seconds.
Well, Rare is going to start to work his way up on top here. Begin to swing around as well, but Hyper is going to be the next to be caught, and he's not the only one as well. Another one picked up, and wow, the dominoes just continue to fall down so quickly here. Canadian suddenly the only one left in a 1 versus 3 scenario, and virtually 0 time to put the case down on the ground. He's not even going to try it. This one just goes right into the hands of FURIA, and they take control of the scoreboard now at 2-1.
I think more of on-point thing to say would be right into Lenda's hands, really. I mean, they just open up the wall and he just kills 2 people immediately. Honestly, that felt more like DarkZero losing the plot more than anything inside of that round. They're able to secure the top floor, but they really don't know what they want to do past that, and that gets them into a lot of trouble. Fortunately enough for FURIA, though, that means a round for them, even though they were down on man advantage. But I mean, there was a lot to say about that one. Some pretty fantastic rotations coming out of the defense as well on that. Highs is going to get rid of the Kaid and pick up Aruni instead as they'll head back downstairs. Kaid, not of the utmost importance here. He can lock up the hatches, but obviously there's going to be a torch brought by DarkZero. This time it happens to be in Canadian's hands.
Basement play. Certainly going to once again give confidence over towards FURIA here as no trouble controlling it back on round number 1. Finally unlocking it for play here on the 4th. We'll see if they can strike fire twice. Put a 3rd round up on the board to already guarantee tie between themselves and their opponents here. And what would be halftime, and open up as many opportunities as possible to gain a permanent lead, at least until we switch sides here and get them onto the attacking side. Once again, operator lineup is going to be pretty much exactly what we saw the first time too. 3 pieces of utility mitigation coming in. We've got the laser gates, got the ADSs, and we got the magnets. So FURIA does not want to trifle with a huge amount of frag dumps potentially coming in from DarkZero there, as we have quite a bit of that. 6, in fact, so makes sense that we get the triple utility mitigation.
Do we get the swing in freezer once again here? Fantasy looking for a lot. Doesn't know if there's a drone in the area, but obviously knows where DarkZero is going to insert themselves, and luckily enough, DarkZero not trusting the space as of right now. So they'll use the Gemini to be able to clear out showers, and they'll obviously find Fantasy lurking around the area as of the moment. NJR will push towards the top of white and has a lot of options at his disposal, but so does Rare over here inside of tower. He'll get rid of the drone on the top end and transition back downstairs. NJR looking for a few bodies around the space as well, as DarkZero still need to suss out the last locations of these FURIA bodies. They'll be able to tag up Rare as he'll trade some damage onto Canadian. That'll be our first minute here for round 4.
NJR once again working on drone utility here, working on trying to figure out what the out-and-about site presence is going to look like for FURIA, if there's any at all. And thankfully, there's not going to be any. Once again, FURIA just playing nice and tight inside of the site. Back over towards Freezer, we do see a little bit of alert being built up, and the first pieces of the Rotero drone kit going to start working their way in from Panba as well. First one that takes out the barbed wire on the stairs, and we'll see more get a bit deeper into the site probably once the hatches have been opened up here. As Eclipse also pops open the Freezer hatch, and that's going to force back a little bit of this pressure from Miracle as well as Lenda.
Now DarkZero connecting some rooms and also some hatch work to go down. They'll clear up some space so that these X-Kairos can get rid of that hatch. So we're getting down to the last minutes here. Pambazoo will be able to clear out some utility. Doesn't get the ADS as well. It does. We'll get rid of the barbed wire here, but there's also a Banshee in this space to worry about from Fantasy. Some smokes out towards construction now as they feel as though that they can use this utility pretty early on to delay DarkZero even further. And honestly, I am loving this from FURIA. This is going to set up DarkZero into a very low time execute, and we all know how difficult those are. Pambazoo will continue to use these Flores drones to clean up the space, excuse me, and make things a little bit easier for the offense to actually transition into this execute.
Hyper ready to move down. Ooh, Tracer nearly striking his head before he peeks out there too. He tries to respond to it. No dice though. Remember, FURIA has since backed away. NJR Prime with the nade. He might be able to line up some timing on this one. No, it's Panba saving the day. They're just taking Fantasy out of the fight instead as a Magnet eats up that nade instead. Flash jumps going into the freezer hold here, but FURIA starting to respond on their own with 2 picks. Panba to equalize again as a savior for this team with less than 5 seconds left though. How are they going to get into this site? They've nearly done it, brought it down to a 2v2, but just no real estate to play with, and FURIA edges out the timer as their coach is jumping for joy here at the lead they've built up.
Well, you'd have to, especially given the circumstances. We're walking into round 5, and FURIA's collecting these rounds like candy. It's looking so strong for them right now, especially when DarkZero are actually doing a pretty good job of being able to clear out utility. The only issue is that they're a little off on their timing, and FURIA are abusing that with their utility usage. There's a lot to talk about for the DarkZero bench, and that's where we're going to see the tac pause used at this moment.
So tactical pause in play now for DarkZero. Need to recenter themselves and need to do it quite quickly here as they are running out of time to rebound in this series and try to find higher seeding. The lower bracket awaits DarkZero if they cannot come back from this one. An upper bracket Glory potentially is sitting in front of FURIA here as well. Nearly halfway there. Just one more round will put them over the hump. Continuing to look great here. A possible lead off this defense map. We talked earlier about how, once again, things for this overall meta and for this tournament had been starting to favor the attackers quite heftily. Finally, we have switched back over to a map where the defenders are having a much easier time controlling the map and controlling these rounds to give them an edge. We'll have to see if the same fate is going to befall DarkZero when they get onto it. But for now, FURIA has to be very happy considering how these previous maps have gone in the series and how generally attacker favored they've gone that they can build such an advantage on the defense.
Absolutely, and I'm very scared for when FURIA get to their offensive side as well, because they've been so dominant when they're on it. I mean, they tend to just run at DarkZero and find so many frags. The big thing for DarkZero right now is that this is a very, very good test for them going into the final stages. Yes, obviously DZ really want to win this map, but doesn't everyone really want to lift a hammer at the end of the day? I think that they need to get used to what they're playing up against right now and continue their adaptations. We'll see if this tac timeout can possibly assist them in doing so as we get back into round 5.
It's going to be a second floor hold from the looks of things for FURIA, as now they're just in the loop at this point, essentially, having closed out another site for themselves. No reason to double back down anywhere else, especially not a first floor hold, considering the mixed results that we would often get from that, and considering the fact that FURIA has already closed that one down too and is still locked away. This one, though, should yield good results, but at the same time, DarkZero was able to find success for themselves here, so a little bit risky having gone back to this one. We will see if DarkZero can find that success yet again, or if FURIA instead is going to steal that thunder away and be able to negotiate a 4th overall round for the defensive half. Operator lineup again, no surprises here. We've obviously shifted away from the utility mitigation. It is much easier for our defenders to just kind of walk their way out of those troubled scenarios or just avoid it outright due to the more complex nature of the geometry of this site here. Not as open as that basement hold. So DarkZero does mean, of course, they'll have to do a little bit more work to access these things too, and they've already brought the Flores in play in order to make sure that that's possible.
Oh, Fantasy. What a spot to be in. This is something that's never really going to be droned out, unless, obviously, you happen to be a pro team. So, DarkZero, please, I guess, in a certain sense. We'll have to see if the Vigil can get away with some things, but I don't think we're going to see the insertion of Canadian down low this time, just simply because he is on the Finca. It's so unbelievably important to what they are doing later on inside of this round. They really want to keep him alive so that they can use those adrenal surges to their greatest advantage. So, more than likely won't see the reinsertion later on from him.
And JR just creeping his way in, clearing out the usual bits of utility that, oh man, that's get a lesson sent at you pretty quickly there, Fantasy, as Panba once again.
Comes at you fast, huh?
Yeah, Panba the professor here today, finally shutting down all this aggression on the defensive side from FURIA. Unfortunately, seemingly the only one that can do it for the team at this point is he's leading at 6-3. There we go, Canadian. He's put class in session as well as he's able to find a pick against Lenda and bring this down to a 5v3.
We'll see what DarkZero can do with the remainder of this round, as FURIA is no slouch when it comes to a gunfight, John. SMG-11 will take out Eclipse as FURIA are looking for more. Down to the 4 versus 3 now, going into the halfway mark here, and DarkZero starting to slow up. You really want to continue to see them moving in this space, but they really don't have a read on the situation. Hyper aware of what's going on the top of White Stairs now as the smoke will be used to be able to clear out the kitchen space, as well as a drone will double up with that to be able to extend that info game even further.
Little over a minute remaining here, so lots of time still needing to be bled out by FURIA. Rare maintains his basement position, but Miracle no longer maintains anything as a nade from below yet again strikes true here from Hyper, knocking out one of the 3 remaining players from FURIA, and leaving only Highs and Rare in the cards here. Rare as well is feeling a little awkward about himself right now. He's got no easy way to transition back upstairs, and he's pretty much just left his teammate off on an island as a result of that play down into the basement. Adrenal Surge in. Oh man, they're not even going to need it. It seems like High's nearly going to take it out by the nade, but he does find one player taking them down with the Surge. You can see the feet of another one over to the sidearm, but Panba does the flippy dip and instead takes him out.
It's the pistol whip, my friend, as he'll be able to take him down. DarkZero get a round after some very serious damage to FURIA early on. Very difficult to try and come back from that, and ill-advised swing out of the freezer stairs as well that really would have liked to see him double over and try and maybe get to a different stairwell to exit that space. But he feels as though maybe a little bit of a cocky situation for him, but feels as though he can possibly swing into Showers Hall and take that with the SMG-11. Clearly doesn't work out for him, though, as DarkZero is looking for their 3rd round going into round 6 now after just securing their 2nd.
6-pick being brought in here. Not a really groundbreaking one, though, for FURIA and for High specifically. He's just going to swap the Jaeger out for a Wamai. Pretty much just a stylistic choice at the end of the day. Thematically, we'll be presenting the same form of utility here in the form of nade mitigation. Away from that, though, it is back down into the first floor hold once more. FURIA have brought up to 3-2 with 2 successful attacks from DZ on the upstairs hold. FURIA are hoping they can negotiate a 4th and final round for this half on this site once again, as they were once more able to fend off the advances of DZ here previously, and they're going to look to just do it one final time. FURIA also going to bring an Echo into the fold for this hold as well, just in case they need to potentially stun out the plant attempts from range here, which will be a certain possibility given the way that both FURIA has tried to position their players on sites like this, and the way that these rounds often tend to play out. If DarkZero is able to push in from the stage door or the stage wall, and FURIA doesn't really have anyone to fight into that, well, they can play it from ranged here with Fantasy helping out with his utility.
Well, now DZ out and about on the map as they'll begin droning this one out. Hyper will start over on Big Tower with few DZ members inside of the space, but most of them centralized over towards the main building, as they'll be looking to try and gain control of the master bedroom and also make sure that no one's going to come underneath to try and nitro cell them. Bamzoo going to clear out the space here as his Flores drone will be shot. Don't necessarily know what he was looking for inside of that area, but doesn't really mean that much to the overall pacing of DZ in the moment. Fantasy clearly able to see a little bit of insight as to what's going on for DZ, but hasn't been able to find too many bodies as of yet, as most of them are still outside. Bamzoo just making sure that Split was clear with that Rotero drone a little earlier, and now the stun out for him in towards the trophy space as to begin to apply pressure to Furia's top hold.
DarkZero continuing to wait out their time as well. Lenda sees a curious little head swinging by on the top of that window there, but will be far too slow to be able to appropriately react to it. No damage will be connected from that exchange here. Highs, though, still wants to contest by the window, so both players will make the exchange over to the other side of Kids and get ready to drop through the hatch should things get a little bit hairy here, which is certainly looking like it could be in the cards. Two silhouettes that we can see from DZ right around the corner. One player on the window repelling. A second, we'll have NJR pressuring in from the attic side as well. One of the two players here has already fallen back, and the second one is not going to waste any time either. They go into the depths of security, and will take up safer positions here, giving up their second floor hold, and now allowing for DarkZero to focus entirely on the site attack for the remaining 1 minute and 5 seconds.
This is very slow rolling for DarkZero right now, and usually when that tends to happen, the round doesn't seemingly go their way. We'll see if this happens to be the case with this one as we get into the last minute. Obviously no more Furia bodies upstairs, but that's unbeknownst to NJR as he'll lose his life to Miracle swinging the hatch through the smoke. Frag grenade out towards the kitchen hallway, but not enough, or at least not close enough to the Furia member to deal any serious damage. Now Hyper obviously trying to figure out exactly what to do with this situation as his timer continues to dwindle. DarkZero has to do something. Bamzoo still holding the cross up front inside of lobby, but nowhere to really put a case in the moment. And with every Furia member alive, DZ don't have a pick nor a purpose in the moment in order to do anything. Canadian's going to break open one of these, and actually as Smoke's going to get caught off here from one of the discs, but now DarkZero start to come to light. Eclipse has found some space, but Miracle's found a body. Can he end this here? Oh no, it's completely doable, but Eclipse, oh, he's so smart. He gets off the case, and he'll be able to claim the last life in the dying moments of the round.
Didn't trust his teammates to close it out, so he hops off the defuse and is able to get himself the kill himself. Oh, that's a bad sentence, but either way, moving on from that, DarkZero now tying us up at 3-3. Furia, yeah, securing those 3 rounds for the defense, but only able to get that far, only able to guarantee the tie as DarkZero bounces back. And now we'll get to take on the mantle of this defensive half themselves. Is it a symptom of the map, or is it a symptom of the team's playstyle? Let's find out now and see if Furia can keep hold of their lead. Also go into DarkZero's first defense in the basement.
Well, Mr. Dr. Blue, we will be asking you for your diagnosis a little later on, but it's probably going to require us 2 to 3 rounds in order to really know what's going on between these two teams. But as of right now, we can dissect both sides to see exactly what they're bringing to the table and the differences between these two squads. The biggest thing right now for Furia is obviously the Zofia coming in for Lenda. Past that, a lot of this is very comparable to what DarkZero was bringing on the offense. Twitch will be brought in for Rare, with those Twitch drones be able to enact upon some of the utility here for DZ. And for DZ, it is going to be the basement hold first. They are bringing everything except the kitchen sink when it comes to denial and the likes of Omai, Aruni, and Jaeger. We'll also have Ella for the odds and ends here. If somebody wants to push in one of those Grishmont mines, well, it's more than likely not going to be a good time, as this is starting to look more like an extended hold as Hyper climbs his way up White Stairs and is currently chilling inside of dorms.
Well, Hyper and the rest of the team here will be more than willing to try and take up further extended positions to try and catch Furia off guard, as we can see that second floor hold taken. Furia will have to try and isolate that out, but we'll have to try and save their own lives first here, as we can see Rare nearly losing his own life right at the beginning of this round here to try play upstairs from Hyper. Mask the drop, if anyone's wondering what that shot was there. And quickly transitions to the depths of security. Tries to pre-fire, but ends up on the losing end of it. Fantasy nearly taking that player out. There was a second one in security. I'm curious to see if they fell back too. It does look like it, yeah. So Fantasy not going to get tripped up by a potential late flank through the hatch here. Does have full control of the entire freezer for the most part too. Obviously the exception being the elbow here, but he's moved in and actually has probably realized that this is a little bit too adventurous. So he's going to continue to kind of waddle back and forth, leave himself in a position where he can still fall back if DarkZero tries to reaggress.
Fantasy, the rest of FURIA now finding their stride here on the offensive side as he'll continue to clean things up. Miracle will start his hatch work as he'll open up the lobby hatch, transition into meeting, and pop that one as well. The hatch queen herself does this job pretty straightforward as he'll won't even use half his utility in order to achieve this. Very well done from Miracle, but can really be done by anybody if they know how to choose their patterns correctly. Some stuns down from Miracle now to make sure that there's nothing in this space to be able to catch anything that he'll launch down, but obviously doesn't have to worry about any of those unless he ends up hitting a laser gate with those X-Kairos. He's going to pop a newfound hole in the freezer wall as they continue to apply the pressure to DZ's setup and slowly walk them back into their own site. But DZ are looking a little squirrely, especially for Canadian. Does he want to go for it? Doesn't seemingly want to do it in the moment. So we reach our last minute here. FURIA have to find some extra info inside of the site or a pick to start pushing themselves forward.
Eyes waiting for the chance to drop back in, and that chance is going to come soon. It'll be forced on DarkZero here as they seem ready to make the play with Miracle in position like we were talking about before. Full freezer control for these guys as well. A nade strikes true, as does Rare, but the trades are just as strong from DZ here. Panba, the flick around, he makes the connection with his pistol, and now he's going to go for a fourth also here. 2 players remain for FURIA as Panba single-handedly holding off the assault right now. Miracle, though, finally ends his wrath, puts us into another even exchange. With 15 seconds left, though, FURIA need to speed this up a bit. Eclipse waiting for a potential peek, but Miracle gives up the jig before he's even ready for it. The swing around, Eclipse connects the shot, and now Lenda sits alone.
Bulletproof on him, and everyone's just going to play it out safe. Hyper adopts the long angle all the way inside of construction. You can see how happy BC is about that. DarkZero make it out of the thick of it as they will secure round 7 and begin to warm up round 8.
Let's see where DarkZero will move towards next. I'd probably expect a second floor play, but we'll get the information on that in just a second. As Panba, we get a nice replay of this heroic hold from the inside of the pillar room there, fending off 3 players over the course of that round and nearly getting himself a 4th as well. Huge plays from him and set up his teammates for success in the 2v2 by wasting out a massive amount of the time from that execute also due to his position on the inside of pillar. Indeed, it will be the second floor coming up here now for DZ. And expected changes to the lineup will come into the fold. They're going to favor a little bit more in terms of the utility mitigation, however, as they will bring the Aruni into their second floor play, where FURIA did not feel the need to.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And as this game continues to go later and later into the night, that also means that our following game is about to be pretty fun for whoever's up next. We'll have some late night siege coming at you guys from Sweden. Obviously, that's pretty favorable for NA, and just so happens to be a space station game, so I bet you guys are pretty happy about that on a Saturday. As for all of us over here in Europe currently, it's going to be pretty fun. We'll just leave it at that one. So now for DZ, they're headed upstairs here for the kids' dorms defense, and let's see what they want to bring to the table. Well, things are pretty straightforward here. Mute and Kaid for the denial, Jaeger and Aruni to try and catch some of the odds and ends that they want to toss in and prevent somebody from getting into some space, and NJR for the denial with those toxic babes.
We've got FURIA on the map now, starting to work their way forward and inching closer and closer towards an entry point here. We'll see where that specifically is going to push them in from here. Lenda wants to immediately put some pressure, at least from the rappel, on towards Arsenal there. Not going to expect too much in terms of resistance in that department from DarkZero. We did see a few months back the meta trending towards leaving a player in there, but it was quickly dispatched of, so it would be a far cry to see DarkZero do it here and now, unless we had a specific setup for it. So yeah, Lenda just waltzes right in. We've got the reinforcements as well, leading over into the master and connector room, so not going to have to worry about any crossfires from that department. It's not until we get towards the games area that these FURIA members have to worry about too much. I mean, you can see a Rare trying to sneak in with a drone position. Oh, nice little cheeky spot there. Able to take out one of the ADSs. Looks like he wanted to get in position and knock out the Mute Jammer too, but couldn't line up the shot quickly enough, and the drone is eventually dispatched of. But the good news is Rare's got a second one, so still hope alive to take care of that and a whole bunch of other utility.
For FURIA, they're still trying to get a grasp on this master setup over here. They are going to take a lot of damages. He'll actually be able to find the Twitch drone. I don't know if he has a timing on this. We're about to find out. I think he does. He does not. It was so very close, and that's also going to destroy the Electro Claw as well. So the wall has been opened, and Hyper's now dead. FURIA's found so many bodies. It's a 5 versus 2 as Canadian is put in his face where he shouldn't. Bambazoo will be able to find highs, though, as they're looking for more. Has to try and play prevention on this round instead of the 2 versus 4. They have to trade out more than equally, John. They have to try and dust every single one of these members. Canadian has to win this fight, but it's white stairs all over again. Fantasy gets him. Bambazoo will right the wrong, though, as he goes into the 1 versus 3. Miracle to plant now. The oversight here. Does he know where he is? He does not, and FURIA gets away with round 8.
FURIA taking another round for themselves here. An immediate response to the faults of the basement play, and they come out on top of one for themselves here, keeping this game even, keeping this game neck and neck, and keeping FURIA's hopes of a first place finish in the group alive and well also. Because now they only need 3 rounds, but obviously so does DarkZero to close this one down here. For DZ, it means just a slight bump in points, but for FURIA, it could potentially mean the world.
Yes, indeed, as it's going to be the Meeting Hall Kitchen defense this time around. We'll be going for the cafeteria side with this one. Also have a 6-pick in here from Hyper off of the Jaeger of all ops into the Ella. So we'll have to see what he can do with this one, as the only prevention when it comes to throwables will be Bambazoo and his discs. So you're looking to him to stay alive for quite some time to try and maximize his potential with that utility. Let's see the setup now here for DarkZero as they're trying to pull ahead yet again, but this FURIA roster really starting to heat up, especially for Miracle, Rare, and Fantasy's case, as they've been stacking these kills throughout these first 8 rounds.
It's looking good once more for FURIA here, but at the same time, DarkZero going to give us a bit of a new wrinkle in terms of their setup here for the upstairs hold. Lots of mitigation, most notably again, trying for Eclipse to play to the inside of this closet here before he opens it back up, as this team will be extending towards the upstairs hold here, trying to waste a whole bunch of time with the position on the inside of Kids. And on top of that, attic positioning as well to try and allow for a huge time sink for FURIA to hopefully get lost in the sauce, trying to clear that out. When they finally are ready to go for the actual site assault, they've either lost too many players or have lost too much time and won't be able to successfully work their way in. Not potentially going to be much of an issue, though, as Highs immediately snipes out NJR, who, much like we saw from Hyper in our first to the second map transition, is now struggling as well here, currently at 2 and 7 as of this map.
Well, I would say Hacker Noises I'm in for Fantasy, but the Grishmont's going to give him up, although DarkZero not seemingly really caring about this situation. They have Kitchen all to themselves, and Bambazoo only has some space to be able to work with this. Shotguns from up top don't deal too much damage just yet to Fantasy as he continues to dance back and forth, and he actually wins out the engagement against Eclipse. Only 2 bodies discovered from DZ as they've lost 3. It's down to Bambazoo and Hyper, rather, to win this out. Hyper now clambering up the freezer stairs. Bambazoo will get himself back into sight, but FURIA, although they more than likely don't know, actually have a site set up to be able to actually get a plant down, but Fantasy is going to extend himself out towards the kitchen side, and Bambazoo will actually lose his life on the re-entry in towards kitchen. Rare now, inside of the 2 versus 1, only has to find Hyper. Had a pretty good game thus far. See if he can do even more. It's down to the clutch, the 1vX for him, as he's trying to fill up that score line here yet again. Rare drone in. He'll be able to find Hyper, and now Rare definitely aware of where he is. High's up top as well. He's got a frag grenade, and oh no, is this all she wrote? The nade out. Won't be able to deal even any damage to Hyper as he'll double back and start looking towards showers.
Hyper continuing to look for opportunities to clutch this one out. Still a boatload of time, unfortunately, to try and drain FURIA, making quick work of tearing apart, especially the extended part of, but for the most part, the entirety of DarkZero's defensive setup, and are now going to be able to get the plant down on the ground. Hyper missing the opportunity to close out on the first member of FURIA. Italy Highs on the back flank to shut down the round and give another one over to our friends from FURIA. They continue to push forward here, and actually have an update as well from the other game that already got started on the Alpha stream. I'll give you a moment this time. I know I spoiled the other game from earlier, but to be fair, it was a good like 30, 40 minutes after the fact, so give me some credit there. Either way, we did see CAG come out on top of their first map versus FaZe Clan of all teams.
Is there a way that we can like get a camera for a split second? I just want you to see my face. That was like, what? What are you talking about? That's insane. Okay. Wow. Either way, I mean, what an incredible game happening over there, as I was not expecting that in the slightest, but either way. All right, let's get back into this one. 5-4 lead in favor of FURIA here on Oregon. And they're not feeling like changing things up too much on the offensive side. And can you really blame them? These rounds have been looking pretty solid from them so far. For DarkZero, the defensive setups haven't been working out the greatest here inside of the last couple of moments, especially with their kitchen setup inside of that last round that ended up damaging them quite a bit as FURIA just was able to walk on in. Even with the Grishmont mine there, it really didn't thwart them or anything like that. He just walked right through it, ran in through kitchen, and they held on to it for a time. Eventually, obviously, the plant going down, and then, well, the 2v1 being won out by the remaining FURIA members.
So FURIA now in charge of things, looking to try and seal the deal with just 2 more assaults being all that's needed for them to lock this series down and lock in a bracket position in the group for themselves. Here were 2 additional points, and that would put them 1 more over at the top of Elevate, I do believe, who sits at the front of this group now as of the most recent match results. Which, that's a huge surprise there alone, the fact that that ended up happening.
Oh, what were you saying? I'm so sorry. I was
Elevate ends up top of this group.
Oh, dude, yeah, I am so completely blown away. Especially because for a lot of us trying to do some research and find out about Elevate, these guys were basically a ghost for the last handful of months. You really couldn't find too much VOD on them. And they come through just gunning everybody. And they're such an interesting team to watch, too, with their play style. So, I mean, honestly, I'm extremely happy for those guys. They really deserve it. The team had a Thailand making some big shots. So, fantastic stuff for them. But either way, FURIA trying to work their way down into Freezer now blue as the drones are warmed up here. Fantasy working his way in, looking for some DZ bodies as Freezer has nobody home. Continue to hold on to this for a time, but the rest of FURIA still need to get a lot of this play done, especially around these hatches.
And just to clarify once again, that is first place not considering tiebreaker contentions, as they are currently tied with TSM, so there is a pretty good possibility that actually they end up in second place there. But like I said, that's for the admins as well as our command center to try and break that one down for you guys.
That's not what they pay us for, so it's okay.
So I'm just looking at Wikipedia and calling it out, pretty much. So blame them if we're wrong. Here we go with FURIA starting to make their descent into the basement here, as they're already going to start opening up some of the real estate, specifically across the freezer wall here. Just peppering it, though, not going to be making any huge gaps as of yet here. Fantasy in position, kind of panicking a little bit here as a small opening is made. He gets a bit of resistance thrown at him from DarkZero. He has to try and fend that off. Thankfully, he's got a whole lot of ammo to account for that and make it possible here. But it's going to be a completely separate fight that starts out the round against a big player from DarkZero, Panda, who's 15-8 right now, by the way, here. Absolutely playing his heart out for DZ, with the next highest players being at 6 for Eclipse and Hyper, respectively. He'll be the first to fall this time. That's a bad sign for the rest of this round and the rest of DZ.
Well, that means that the rest of DarkZero has to do something. It's not a one-man show, folks. This is Rainbow Six Siege. You have to have the team play, and hopefully some shots can be landed. Ask, and you shall receive, as the entire kill feed is blue. 3 bodies fall for FURIA, and Miracle finally to right the wrong. Able to at least secure one, but Canadian with a beautiful shot from downrange takes out Miracle. Lenda now into a 1 versus 2, but Lenda,
you don't even have it, man.
The case, my friend. abandoned. That's pretty unfortunate. He's only going to have 2 seconds remaining here, but do they know where he's planting? He's actually just going to quit out instead. And, well, we're going to have the equalizer coming here from DarkZero after he gets off of the case. Very well done from DZ there, especially to fight back without Pambazoo, who has been going nuke this map.
Well, and I think just hoping there might have been a double swing against him, and through luck mainly would have been able to close out and transfer the spray onto both of them before the timer ran out. Neither team can go on a run, it seems, inside of the second half, as we are deadlocked now at the same scoreline for both of these teams. 5-5, maintaining the same position we've been at ever since halftime, leaving us tied for the past 4 to 5 rounds now. Heading into round number 11, only 2 remaining here for either team to close it out, so no more trading. It's got to be consistent from this point forward. Otherwise, we will go into a second overtime for this series to decide the true winner.
Yes, indeed. And no extended, or rather infinite overtime here inside of the group stage, so it will be the good old best of 3 rounds if we do end up crossing that bridge. But we'll cross that bridge later on when we actually have to do so. At the moment, still a dead heat, 5-5 on both sides of the script here. So for FURIA, they're going to be 6-picking away from whatever the initial operator was, really, and now on to Thermite instead. So we'll see if they can end up getting some of these walls open in these important spaces around the area. Hyper, is he actually going to be going for this? He is indeed. This is a very important area to the part of the map that happens to be right above Cafeteria, mainly because if you do get a plant down inside of Cafe, that means that you can play it from above because, well, small tower is so easy to get a hold of for the offense.
So we can see here for FURIA, it's going to start to maintain early positions for themselves here. No surprises in terms of what both teams have been bringing to the table for said setup, and Lenda once again going to proceed in the same way that we saw him doing so the last time we had ourselves in a similar position on this site, or more importantly, just a similar opening to the round where FURIA had to go for a top clear. They're going to leap right into Arsenal. Lenda will take that up and start scouting things out with the Gemini as he proceeds to push that a little bit further across the map. Eyes as well entering in through Attic here. We'll begin to put some of the pressure, some of the scope onto the members of DarkZero and see if they can find them out.
Well, now for Highs with the Twitch drone in tow, he's looking for some extra info as to what he can possibly get done here. Eclipse will be holding on to dorms for a time, Highs as well, torching up the wall here for the actual dorm space, so they'll be able to see if anybody is playing close. Rare now, having some extra time at his disposal. Minute and 40 seconds remaining for these squads to do something here, and that's exactly why FURIA is so apt to drone this one out. Eclipse looking to deal some damage. A Nitro Cell out, but Highs fires back. The Nitro Cell doesn't have a button any longer as Canadian's been removed from play.
Rare trying to shoot through the floor, nearly gets NJR in the process, bringing him down to just about 5 to 10 HP here. A good primer for FURIA to be able to use here on top of the kill that they already got to start the round off versus Canadian. As well, still way ahead on time scope, also with a little over a minute remaining. Hyper trying to work himself up to the white stairs, but no, is going to get caught, pinched from either direction, no matter which way he went. Fantasy will be the one to grab him, and that's an even further advantage given over to FURIA. They're looking to once again set up for the first exchange they need to close out this map. 3 more kills still to go, though, and this is the part of the round we've often seen things go wrong when a team looks like they're going to get a clean closeout.
It's 3 versus 5 now with 40 seconds remaining. Still a little bit of work done, or at least to get done here for FURIA. Miracle will open up the wall, case in hand, but they want to make sure that they have some extra insight into this situation. As of right now, it'll be smokes down here, which will more than likely trigger DarkZero to start pushing themselves forward. But do they hear Fantasy on the wall? Pambazoo's going to lose his life. It's a double right now for Fantasy as he pushes himself in. And JR's found this.
Hello.
He waits the time. He sprints across the split. He's the last remaining member alive. Do they know where he is? He's able to get one, but he sees the man with the case run to the other side of kitchen. Lenda will catch him, and they found the round, John. It breaks down in such a odd way, but still, FURIA able to come out on top.
It's scrappy, but this entire series has been scrappy, so it falls in line with what we've already been seeing here. FURIA, the first to race up onto match point, But unfortunately, only one opportunity to get it done in clean fashion here. They need to run it straight, which has been an impossible feat so far inside of this half. One more is all they need. One more has been evading them every single time they've won a round. DarkZero are going to go, however, once again for another meeting hall and kitchen hold and hope that that will be their saving grace to send us into an overtime.
Meeting hall kitchen for DZ as they'll just be switching sides of kitchen here, away from Kafe and into the meeting hall once again. And as we talked about prior, this site's pretty unique in the way that you can play it, especially from the downstairs space where you can really see those nitro cells come into play to try and prevent plants. We've been seeing a lot of teams though try and prioritize the kitchen space as they try and get plants down, especially around that center island area that works out really, really well for them over in that space right there in front of your very eyes. DarkZero will be looking to defend that as best as they can as they head upstairs for the top hold that is still of a very big importance to the overall round.
So let's see here once again for our friends from FURIA, if the job can be done, if the operator lineup is going to bring enough prowess here to breach past this defensive setup from DarkZero, and more importantly, if DarkZero's own play will finally allow them to come back into this one to exchange out one final round here, send us into overtime, and potentially save their tournament lives. Well, I say tournament lives, but that part's already been saved here, more so in this series, as they look to get a little bit more of a respectable placement outside of this group. Big change-up once again is going to be Hyper going back over to the Ela once more. Those Grishmots probably going to be pretty useful inside of this situation just due to the rather haphazard nature that FURIA has been playing the attacking side, forcing themselves into rooms here, swinging them quite wildly. If they do that without properly droning out all the walls and whatnot, they might miss a Grishmot. That would allow for a member of DarkZero to get an outright initiation against one of the members of FURIA should they get tripped up by one of those traps.
As we get into the hotter hours for everyone here, FURIA is ready to spring two inside of this round. A minute already off the board for them as they start to consider what their next play will be. Rare already pushing himself forward into Cafeteria. He's got a beautiful cross here. You can actually see through that center island there as well. So it makes it pretty easy for him if somebody does end up crossing. He can possibly catch them. But we'll have to see. Fantasy now pushing himself forward as well. In through Z here. Has a Banshee in front of him, so can't exactly go too far. So he'll activate that and give up the plot here to the security player. So he's just going to take his time and allow his other members of the squad to actually work the map, as this is a pretty cheeky area to be in as long as you can continue to hold on to it, because obviously the security player at any moment could just try and rotate out and assume that it's safe, but you have the cross now. NJR seemingly aware that somebody could be inside of that area. He's just going to hold fast instead as we get down to the dying moments.
Blenda's starting to get in towards the crunch here as well. They've gotten that full frontal control for themselves to play from the outside of this one. Flank's going to work itself in from freeze mode. This is dangerous, but Fantasy turns tail just at the right time. It's going to be Eclipse to still strike true, however, but Lenda immediately exchanges onto another member of DarkZero here, keeping the numbers even. They still need to work their way past it. There's that Gashmot they didn't watch out for, but it's not even going to matter. Rare has no trouble harassing in to take out NJR with highs, also taking down Pan, but Hyper trying to loop back in for the trades, but it's not enough. Canadian is left with a disadvantage 1v2 here. Case is down on the ground, but is absolutely workable with the range between themselves and Canadian at this point. As they move over now, should be picking it up at any second. An aid going in. Thankfully, Canadian's got the deployable tables to block that one back off. And in just a second, we should see the first plant attempt from FURIA. Here it comes. They'll put it down onto the ground, but Canadian lurking his way. Do they expect him to get aggressively? No. He picks up the kill. He jumps off high, looks for the clutch, but he's already at low HP. 18 seconds left to find out Canadian. He turns the wrong way, sees him once again behind the chassis. It's a ring around the Rosie, and it's Canadian clutching it out instead in the 1v2 to send DZ into overtime.
A terrifying round there, but there's only one man for the job, and it just so happens to be Canadian. Ice cold at the end of that round as he's able to secure the 1vx and push us into overtime. DarkZero's not dead yet, folks, as they're holding on.
Couldn't hold on to the 2 rounds needed for FURIA there. So these teams volley their rounds all the way back and forth throughout literally, I'm pretty sure, the entire second half. Just one for FURIA, one for DarkZero, one for FURIA, one for DarkZero, and one more time for both teams there to push them all up onto 6 and send us into another overtime. If that continues to go this way, then FURIA is going to be feeling okay about that because they will eventually win this game. But we will have to see if one of these two teams can finally outwit the other consecutively, meet their match, and more importantly, close out this series.
Oh, well, now for FURIA, it's to the drawing board of the defensive end of things now, which they haven't been on for 6 rounds. They're going to be obviously having access to 2 defensive rounds inside of the 3 here. DarkZero, obviously access to 2 offensive rounds inside of this one, so we'll see what they can possibly muster. For FURIA, they're starting us off downstairs. The big thing we need to talk about here is going to be the clash from highs. Pretty unique thing coming in that we don't really see too often, at least in the current moment. I've barely seen her this entire LAN, although she can be pretty annoying when played around properly. She's got some slowing effect with the, electrical shock she has with the Riot Shield, as well as a pretty damaging secondary pistol, so we can see highs hit some pretty cheeky clips if he's able to achieve that. With 15 seconds off the board now, DarkZero out and about as they'll be attacking this basement site.
Well, with Canadian opening up an option into T3 here, we'll see what he's going to be able to control from that point. And if it'll be his initial entry point to descend down. Wanting to check this one out and make sure there's no shenanigans inside of T2 from FURIA, and indeed they'll find it quite clean and open for the taking. So make the first entry for his team inside of the building, with the rest of DarkZero probably following pretty shortly behind. They'll be looking to steal away that first floor control. FURIA seems to have gone away from their own more aggressive setups. For instance, a few rounds back when they were on a basement play, saw them trying to deploy all the way up towards the second floor. Land hammer there for NJR for a second. If anyone's curious as to what I mean by that, takes a while sometimes for players to get used to playing on the LAN client. I know they've been here for like 5 days at this point, so it's actually kind of funny that we're still seeing players mess that up. We had that like at the beginning of the series a little bit too, with the hatches over on Kafe. But basically, some of the gadgets and whatnot kind of work a little bit differently on this client.
I'm just going to yoink this excuse away from you real quick, because in NA we play on the LAN client, so...
Yeah, that's right. I always forget about that.
There is no excuse, John. That hammer must land every time.
To be fair, like it's been a
year?
It's been like, no, I'm saying it's... I'm trying to remember when the NA finals were, back in like the beginning of December.
Yeah.
So it's been like 2 months.
It's been a little while, so they've been technically home doing some stuff, but it is what it is.
I don't even think DarkZero like played that weekend as well, did they?
Yeah, they did.
Did they? Okay, yeah.
They did.
Okay, we had semifinals too.
Absolutely.
It's all blurred.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. As you start to cast Siege more and more, it just kind of all starts to blend together. But luckily enough, folks, not really anything going on in the first minute here as DarkZero start to push themselves downstairs. Canadian on the Maverick for this one. We also have Hyper on the F2 as he was working his way into Freezer, but starting to get low on time here. And this is where things get really scary, because I don't know if they know that Clash is in play, and she can limit a lot of what's going on in the current situation, and none of her direct counters are in play from DZ either.
Bear still continuing to fend off the pressure from DarkZero on the back staircase, however. Just a volley of shots going out, trying to scare away the members of DZ, but it won't work forever here. Eventually, they're going to be forced into the site regardless. 30 seconds have gone by. No kills for either team. Yet to have even tested the clash as of yet either. This is the beauty of all this series. They're going to have to spot that one out and figure out a very quick solution for dealing with that, as DZ will have to give no respect to this hold, but they won't have a choice here. Rare and Lended with 2 clean openers. No response. Fantasy now in the fight as well. It's one pick for everybody. He'll see if the clash can maybe get one over the next few seconds as well, but a drop shot it looked like there for one player, as FURIA just clean up in one of the most one-sided rounds we have seen here in quite some time. FURIA take full control and take the lead again, but can they keep it? That is now the question as we move on to our penultimate round.
I really wish I could tell you why that round was such slow moving for DarkZero, but I really don't know. That just, well, seemed to be like what pacing they wanted to go with, especially around that freezer space. Just really nothing coming through for them at the end of the day. But in the current moment, FURIA will pull ahead after a very convincing defensive round. DarkZero are going to adopt the exact same site, but is it going to be the same setup? Canadian now with the 6th pick, but also one from the offensive side as well. Rare will adopt Monty as well as Echo coming into play for Canadian.
Montaigne, this is going to be an interesting one. Yet to have seen this come into play for either FURIA or DarkZero. over the course of this series, and overall a relatively uncommon pick nowadays, except for a couple of cheese and niche strategies the teams like to bust out from time to time here. So we'll see what this potentially enables for the FURIA camp of things. Certainly going to make that initial insertion into areas like construction possibly a little bit easier, but at the same time, there are counters to it quite present here for the defense, and quite a few of them at that. This could actually end up being a fatal mistake for FURIA, at least at this round. Not only do you have the potential of yokai drones unfurling that shield, you've got the Gershwat mines that could mess it up, and on top of that, you've got the toxic babes too. Thankfully, no nitros. That's probably the only saving grace right now for Rare, but still, there is so much that could trip him up. He's got to be very, very careful and make sure he's got an ace intel team droning him forward.
Yeah, the scariest part of this is definitely got to be the yokai drone and the way that DarkZero could possibly combo that to take out Rare pretty early on his entry. The big thing to consider, though, is that FURIA have been firing on all cylinders when it comes to the frag department here. The lowest amount of frags in the squad, 9 in the current moment, which is truly incredible. Pambazoo, does he have the shotgun as his primary? He more than likely does with that pistol out in such a odd way, and oh, highs. Oh, man. Well, at least we know he's not cheating, right?
Also everyone positive, it looks like, too.
Yes.
Or even.
Yes, absolutely the case, my friend. Everyone even or positive on FURIA. That's not something that you see every single day.
DarkZero certainly doing their best to win out their defensive rounds through objective play, as we've been seeing here, is a little bit more on the struggle bus when it comes to their own personal score lines. But as we talk about plenty of times, these kills are not necessarily everything inside of Siege, so you can see teams, especially on the defense, be able to edge out victories through utility alone, which has been DarkZero's saving grace, I think, for a lot of their rounds, and may very well become the case for this one, if they can fend off most notably that Montaigne being played by Rare here with the massive bank of utility that they have to stop him.
Yes, indeed. And now the drone game here for FURIA, as they need to get some intel as to what's going on in the actual site. They've already got these hatches open as Habana has peeled back those reinforcements. He's still with some grenades in hand, but he wants to make sure that he hits his mark as well. And once again, that's where the intel game starts to come through. Pambazoo does actually have the Scorpion instead of the shotgun out here, so does have some access to some longer range engagements if he so chooses, especially around the construction area. But FURIA on a very similar time to what we saw with DZ on their offense here. This is starting to get worrisome, but Miracle, he's worked his way into Freezer. Pambazoo might possibly make the play up big stairs here. So we could possibly see him make the round-winning move if it does end up going off. Highs will be able to clear out the pillar space for the time being. Miracle with one, but not with the second. NJR with a refrag as he'll regather Freezer. Pambazoo will take down one, and now Rare, he's getting shot up, but oh, what a shot from him. Lenda's been down, though, as we go into the 2 versus 2. Can the Shielder get it done as he's dancing behind this deployable shield? Pambazoo, his shots will go wide, trying to take up Fantasy, but Fantasy collects him instead. NJR collects the Shielder, and now it's down into the 1 versus 1. Can FURIA secure it? It's NJR as DarkZero once again stave off the end of Oregon.
All right, well, now the pressure shifts right back over to DarkZero again. Who's going to get their 2 rounds in a row? Because if not, once more, FURIA have the advantage as we go into our final round of play. Regardless of the outcome, this is it. This is the last play that both of these teams will see here today. And for FURIA, it couldn't be more important. Top 1 in the group stands before them if they can claim this 1 round. If they can just keep the status quo of trading out these rounds that we've been doing for nearly the last 8 now.
Well, it's going to be down to the meeting hall kitchen defense for FURIA in order to do so. For DarkZero, they now have Thermite into play. Get the Habana out of here. We don't even need it, as that will be the only hard breach being brought here for the DarkZero side. So feeling pretty confident in this one. I'll be on to Eclipse here as Pambazoo, 16-12 at the current moment. No one even coming close to him in the lobby right now. The closest happens to be Fantasy at 12-12. So 4 more kills, almost an entire team's worth of frags coming from Pambazoo in the difference.
Seeing if there's going to be any interesting wrinkles in the setup here for our defenders, but looking like we're going to get pretty much what we would tend to expect here. Putting emphasis once more on the hold inside of Kitchen, a big bunker being created for our defenders there, and security as well, and the usual time waster upstairs here inside of kids and dorms. Fantasy, interestingly enough, going to bring a Legion into the fold for this one, a bit of a comfort pick, hopefully allowing for him to frag out here on top of getting some good intel, because unfortunately for DarkZero, they're going to have to work their way through quite a few narrow corridors in order to get access to either one of these sites, and that is prime real estate for the goo mines to be thrown down by Fantasy. Much like we see with Wamai, the longer this round goes on, the more of those Fantasy will have access to, obviously with an upper limit on the number that can be on the ground at the same time, but either way, Fantasy here will grow more lethal the further we get into this round here, and the more goo mines he unlocks.
Yes, indeed, and Lenda already taking some serious heat. I don't necessarily know where it was coming from. I believe it was NJR all the way in the basement, and yes, indeed it was. He's going to regress here as NJR is trying to hold on to the space. Does he know that his bodies went back in, though? Quick shot in through the E-box wall, but nobody home in order to catch that. So Lenda will just end up moving through Freezer here with Rare as they'll try and get back into the site in a safer manner. Now DarkZero have complete control over the tower area as they'll look to see what exactly they can do with this. The biggest thing as of right now for DZ is that their mid rounds have been very inactive. We really need to see them ramp things up here and start to try and take it to Furia.
Members of DarkZero primed and ready to go here. Already with some good damage lined up against Lenders, waiting for a few more of these Rotero drones to work their way off, I think, and then they'll have the clearance they need to start at least posturing themselves a little bit closer towards the site swing. Eclipse, of course, still needing to put some pressure into the upstairs hold and start clearing that up, but considering they are going for the assault towards stage side, don't need to pay as much mind to it as they would if they were trying to go for the kitchen play here. And JR, of course, keeping watch over that big window, leading itself outside of kids to make sure that there is not going to be any shenanigans thrown at them from the Furious side of things. Walt spotted. Now they can start opening up the top downs inside of Attic here and potentially forcing some more of the Furia members to play further back here. Miracle as well nearly bled out all of his toxic babes already, and we were only 2 minutes into the round here, so he's going to have to choose his timing carefully as to when to use the last one, and unfortunately NJR won't be able to choose anything inside of this round. Fantasy strikes true instead and gets the first kill of the round against him.
Well, the good news is he's already gotten his task done in opening up the attic space to be able to see down to where the potential plant could come from DarkZero. Bad news bears, though, is that Furia still have so many bodies left alive here. Lenda's taken a lot of heat, and Canadian can't find the kill inside of Meeting, but now some shots ringing out. It's mostly from the Furia side, though, as Hyper steps up to the plate. He'll take down one. This plant starting for Eclipse, but nobody's got the answer. He's looking for him, and Fantasy's found him. The shot's back, but this is starting to look like a Furia round, and it is, as they secure Oregon. So many kills coming in the dying moments, and DarkZero can't handle the heat, so they have to get out of the fire. Furia, what a game from them, as they'll take it in 2-1 fashion.
These teams volley it back and forth. Ever since the second half got started, no team could win a series of rounds more than one, and due to that, we end up seeing Furia come out on top of not only this map, but this series as well here. And they take control. I'll actually correct myself. There was one occurrence where we saw that happen for 2 rounds in a row being picked up by our attackers, but either way, things looking good for Furia. As they edge out this series, they edge out first place in the group, guaranteeing them an upper bracket position as well, heading into the playoffs when we draw that bracket tomorrow morning.
What an insane series to witness, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it at home, because Furia especially playing a heck of a series. Hello again, everybody. Hopefully you guys had fun along with us. I know I did. DarkZero looking a lot healthier than they did the first couple of days, and Furia as well, giving us a heck of a series up against them. How are you feeling about it, my friend?
Pretty good. And again, at the end of the day, this wasn't like a huge match for DarkZero. They were mainly just playing for seeding, trying to bump themselves up a little bit. With the outcomes of the other ones, the fact that DarkZero could not successfully 2-0 this one, giving them the 3 points they would have needed to push towards the top of the group. Once that first map was lost, it was pretty much just, all right, we're just playing to play this game and finish out our group because we already know we're through, so not really much they could do to change their own fate. What we're going to do, folks, is change the channel for just a moment here, as the two of us are done for the day. We're going to go to a short break, and then when we do come back, we got the command center ready to break this game down.